Today we expose the linchpin of America's hidden bondage, the 14th Amendment, and how it placed every man, woman, and child under the Federal Corporations Administration used as collateral for the public debt. In 1868, the 14th Amendment created a new legal identity, the citizen of the United States. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, admits it recognized for the first time a citizen of the United States as distinct from that of the states. Here's why this matters. The people created the states. The states created the federal government. But the federal government, through this amendment, created its own citizen. A creature of law, not of flesh and blood. A legal person designed to be managed, regulated, and taxed. This was the quiet inversion of sovereignty. Instead of government serving the people became subjects of government. Section 4 of the amendment guarantees the validity of the public debt. That clause became the foundation for a vast trust indenture scheme. By 1933, during the banking emergency, Congress declared that all property, homes, cars, even your labor, was pledged to this debt. The Congressional Record, March 9, 1933, page 83, makes it plain. Everything was mortgaged. Your birth certificate became a bond. Your name, a financial instrument. Under 26 U.S. Code 641, you're taxed as a trustee of this estate. Equity courts enforce it, treating living men and women as legal fictions. And the Securities Exchange Act of 1944 turned your daily interactions, fees, fines, signatures, into negotiable paper. The amendment placed you under federal administration, not as a free man or woman, but as collateral. Here's the critical truth. The 14th Amendment trap is voluntary. In McDonnell v. State, 1883, it was ruled that one may be a citizen of a state without being a citizen of the United States. But each time you accept federal benefits, Social Security, licenses, federal voting, you consent to the role of U.S. citizen. You step into the federal corporation's jurisdiction. You bind yourself as surety for its debt. This is why judges treat you as a dead entity, a fiction on paper. This is why your signature creates obligations. And today, technology, from databases to AI, tracks this compliance, ensuring the system runs smoothly. Since 1933, the system has thrived on your consent, but the choice remains yours. Accept the benefits and stay bound, or reclaim your sovereignty, standing as one of the people. Learn more. Search Burn the Corporate Fiction on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Burn the Corporate Fiction. I hope everyone is doing well this evening. Man, well, I'll tell you, the AI was not doing so well on pronouncing the section symbol or the sections of the United States Code, but hey, that's why I put on the subtitles so you guys can read it. Of course, I hope that you do read it and then actually go look this stuff up for yourself, because as always, I bring the receipts in all of my content material. So speaking of which, I found a new Supreme Court case that delineates the difference between a state citizen and a federal enfranchisement, also called citizen, when really it's a chattel property, public property. So I'll be showing that to you guys in a little bit, well, guys and gals in a little bit. But before I do, let me say hi to the several people that have shown up already. We have Eddie was in here, and Pat, hold the line, and here I am. We got Corbett. Good to see you. We have Crypt Rick. I did an interview last night with Crypt Rick. It's fantastic. It's airing on his radio show. It aired earlier tonight, and the second part will be airing next week. So that was awesome, and I'm looking forward to checking those out. I will upload them to my channel once he's done. You know, obviously it's his interview. Get it presented on his radio show, then I'll upload it on here for you guys to watch as well if you don't catch the radio show. We got Crypt Rick, Mojo. Good to see you, Theo. Good to see you. And backstage, I have Sovereign Soul, Unchained Mind, also known as Dave, also known as my father. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. My thing was froze up. I just had to restart everything. Just got everything working again. Damn it.
That's frustrating. Sometimes I'll go to start, like how I've been playing those shorts that I make. I'll start playing the short and then I'll go click another window and both my screens go black and it boots me out of the studio while my clip's playing. It's annoying. So, tonight we are going to be talking about something a tad bit theoretical, which can be fun, but I tell you, it's my theory. It's supported by substantive facts that I can prove, but the conclusion I draw, of course, is my own theory. And that would be the Tower of Babel and what the Tower of Babel was and how it is still something that they are erecting today with AI. So, I don't know if you've ever heard my theory on what the Tower of Babel is there, Dad. Do you have any opinions on it?
Yeah, I think that there's, it doesn't have to be outwardly noticeable. I think that these things can be done underground and symbolically as well. So, yeah, I think they're still building it.
Absolutely. And actually, it's very much symbolic, which is funny about the Tower of Babel in the first place, because it was only after the Tower of Babel that God confused the languages. So that alludes to the fact that it was one living language prior to that, which is something that was on the Georgia Guidestones that they want to restore, unite humanity with one new living language. But I think that language was symbolism. Okay. And it's something that the elite have kept underground for millennia. And I believe that the Tower of Babel, of course, just my theory, is actually a tower made of legalese for several reasons. One, because, well, when we say somebody's running their mouth, blah, 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 as I do, pontificating on various points, you say that they're babbling, right? There's also, language learning models called Babel. The lawyer's AI is called Spellbook, right? So they let you know right there that it's word magic anyways. And of course, most of my subs probably know that. But what I think the Tower of Babel was, what was the goal of the Tower of Babel? Was to reach the heavens and wage war on God, usurp the authority of the throne. Well, I contend that they are doing that, and they have continued to try to do that, going all the way back to Egypt, then Babylon, then, Persia, Greece, Rome, then London. And now today, it's basically without a country. It's just a corporate oligarchy. And what they're doing is they're trying to usurp God's authority by reducing everyone to chattel property, because man cannot make law. Okay, I go over this all the time. I'm actually going to show a clip in a second that is from somebody who's obviously not a very God-fearing individual, but he even begrudgingly has to admit that all law is biblical, essentially, and particularly trust law, which is what they're using. So they create trusts, which are fictions. They write roles for everybody in the trust, and they get you to consent to being this corporate fiction, this artificial person, trustee. And when you're that trustee, they only have to deal with you as property in quasi in rem jurisdiction, which is essentially a mixture of admiralty and civil law. It's quasi in rem. And they do the very same thing that the Babylonians did, that the Romans did, and that is still going on today, is reducing people to property so that they can actually make rules and regulations regarding the property. And that's the only way man can make law. What do you think of that?
Sounds legit to me.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. The interview I had last night with Crip Rick is what made me decide to do this today. He was very interested in hearing my theories on what the Tower of Babel was. And it is accomplishing the very goal that the Tower of Babel had intended on accomplishing, and that is usurping divine jurisdiction, barring your access to actual law, right? Whether or not you violate somebody's free will or their rights. Instead, it's just terms of a trust indenture, contracts, right? And they don't need to hear, they don't care what you have to say about, oh, you're free or you're living. They don't care about that, because if you were not chattel property, you wouldn't be in their court. That's how they look at it. And that's why you always have to announce that you're there by special appearance. So let me show this clip. And I don't know if you've seen this one before, Dad, but you might find this interesting. This is Brandon Joe Williams. I don't have a problem with the guy. I don't agree with everything he teaches, but I do agree that he knows what he's talking about for the most part. And even he has to begrudgingly admit what I'm about to show you. So What the hell is that?
But if you want to see if you're
Where did it
I'm
go?
not a Christian, but trust law requires you to study a lot having to do with the Bible. It's all from the Bible. It's all from that type of thing. So regardless of how religious you are, if you want to get into trust and trust law and go down that rabbit hole in a deep and meaningful way, you will be studying the Bible. You will be studying Bible verses. You will be studying the Word of Jesus Christ, whether you are religious or want to or not. I have no desire to be a Christian or to involve myself at all, but I have a strong desire in taking this information that's in this book called the Bible, and realizing that it all of law, I mean, really all of law comes from the Bible. So you have a parable from the Bible, and then that becomes like a huge, like really, really basic element in the legal system. And I feel like a lot of that's the Bible and trust law. So it's a fascinating philosophical, spiritual journey that a lot of Christians are getting involved in. They see this as literally like even a greater understanding than their own church of the voice of God. It's almost like a church for a lot of people, even though I don't look at it that way. But it's like there's a lot of people who are on board who are like, I'm getting more closer to God from this material than I am from my own church, which is like crazy, right? I'm not a Christian, but.
And that is true. I also share that opinion, is that my studies of the law have actually brought me closer to God than any church. And it's because you actually see the handiwork of the Creator in the way that the systems of law work. And every government in the world has to figure out a way to reduce their citizenry to property before they're able to actually place them under administration and control their behavior. And so if this was not the case, if it was not the case that man could not make law and that they can only regulate commerce and property of incompetence under administration, if that were not true, then why do they go through such great lengths to reduce you to property in order to apply their statutes and codes to you? I'll give you an example. The entire Civil War was primarily about being able to create the 14th Amendment, which is a creature of the federal corporation and not one of we the people, so that they then could regulate that creature as if it were under its guardianship and had no will of its own. And they went through great painstaking efforts to make that happen, because they knew, and they know, and all governments know. I was just talking to one of my followers on Facebook, and he's from Australia. And he was saying, why do they think that the Constitution is for the government? It's not for the living people. And, said a whole bunch of stuff. So I commented and I was like, yeah, so you need to look through the history of your law and find out which enactment it was that reduced the people to property, because that's the only way you can become subject to statutes, codes, and regulations, right? That's it. Is you either consent to come under it via contract, or you're treated as property. Those are the only ways. That's what Rome had done, was reduced people to property. That's what Roman civil law is, right? And essentially the Caesar and the Senate were the supreme administrators, right? The Caesar's the supreme administrator, and they regulate everyone as if it were commercial, as if they were property and items in trade, essentially. And look at what they do today. It's the same exact thing. So that's very important to understand to really grasp why I think that the Tower of Babel was this exact system that they're trying to set up. So what they did here was they first had to give the people their sovereignty in the Republic, in the United States. And they did that so that they could usurp it and give it to their corporations. That was the whole purpose. It was a big trick, a big ruse. And if you don't know about that, go watch the show I did a few days ago called The Constitutional Deception, about how there was a lot of deception surrounding the ratification of the Constitution, replacing the Articles of Confederation. And the purpose was they did not want the common man to have power. It was dangerous for the wealthy aristocracy. And so they drafted the Constitution, ratified it, because it left the back door open for the law merchant, for the attorney to come in and usurp the sovereignty of the people, ultimately just to give it to the corporations that they created, right? And so that was a long and arduous effort on their part. But before I get into that too much, let me say hi to those of you that have just dropped in. We've got Unindoctrinated, Joyce B, Ulick. Good to see you guys, all of you. Peg's Place, and it looks like Pat's back, so that's good. Good to see you. And hopefully I didn't miss anybody. If I did, then I will. Mr. Tahiti, there we go. Good to see you. So, Dad, are you still with me there?
Yeah, man. Right. I had to mute my mic because Fabio was drinking water.
Oh, what'd you think about old Brandon Joe Williams and what he had to say there?
That's pretty interesting. You know, I was thinking when you was talking about that. You remember that movie, The Book of Eli?
Exactly. Yep.
Remember, that's what Gary Oldman, his character, that's what he was after, was the book. He knew that it was a source of power. But that's all he really knew about it. And then he gets it, and the damn thing's in Braille. That was funny as shit.
Yeah, spoiler alert, it was in Braille, but it was a great movie. And see, the antagonist wanted the Bible because he knew the power it wields and the ability to control man, sort of like the Pope, right?
Yeah.
And then, and then Eli wanted to keep it safe because he knew the salvation and redemption that it holds. And so that's really what the battle was between, and the Bible is a double-edged sword like that, just like the Magna Carta, just like the Constitution. You know, the Bible sanctions what they're doing. That which you bind on earth, I will bind in heaven. That which you loose on earth, I will loose in heaven, is literally the scriptural authority for God to not interfere with the free will of contracts, right? And that's why they put it right on the money to mock you. What does it say on the money?
In God we trust.
Yeah, and they're not talking about just trust. They're talking about this trust is created under God, and he's not going to interfere because you consented to it. We have authority to do this. That's what they're mocking you. And that is exactly what it is. The trust itself is what has caused this entire mess. The concept of the trust in the corporation in general is what caused this entire mess. So what I mean by that is trusts obviously are fictional. Corporation is a form of a trust, right? And so a trust is a legal fiction in which there's property transferred into the trust, and that property is to be maintained by trustees for the benefit of a beneficiary. And what it does in reality is it takes the beneficiary and makes him powerless, essentially, other than compelling the trustees to do what they're supposed to do. But it gives the trustees all the power over the property. So when they blanket made trusts out of everybody with the Set the KV Acts, they're like, well, we're just going to declare everybody dead, and we're going to turn your estate into an inter vivos trust, which means a living trust, right? And we're going to administer your estate unless you come back with an action at law and say you're alive. And that was because of the London fires and the small hats having burned London to the ground and all that stuff. So, but the reason they reduced everyone to trusts is because it allowed the king to be the administrator over their estates, even regulating their bodies as property of the trust. And that's how they were actually able to impose the will of man on other men, because they weren't imposing it on other men. They're imposing it on chattel property. And so matter does not have free will. It's only its nature is to offer resistance. And so it's considered that whoever wills against the resistance to transform that object can then use it to serve their will. And then, of course, there's the whole aspect of dependency. But that was the real reason for that whole situation. And the concept of trust in general created corporations, right? And the corporations, what the only purpose of a trust or a corporation is to remove personal responsibility and liability. That's why you can have Pfizer as a serial felon, but nobody goes to jail. That, in my opinion, they should just get rid of the concept altogether. It doesn't serve anything but fraud and what's the word I'm looking for? Basically just scamming people. That's it. Go ahead. You were going to say something?
No, I was just coughing, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's the idea. So what I think that they were doing was in trying to usurp the divine jurisdiction, Babylon was the first ones to, well, I think Egypt was the first ones to do this from what I can research, but there's not really any history on Egypt, and obviously intentionally they're hiding something about ancient Egypt they don't want us to know. That much I'm sure.
Yeah, they're hiding shit about all this, man. I just saw a thing today where they're and this is through the Trump administration wanting to order the Smithsonian to let people examine the shit that they got.
Yeah, and they never will.
Giant bones and shit like that.
And
I think there's a soft disclosure. I think that's why there's more and more of this you're seeing, and people aren't getting as much shit for it. I think it's kind of a soft disclosure. They're letting it get out there, letting the people get accustomed to the idea that, yeah, there were giants and they did cover it up and that kind of thing. But then they'll act as dumbfounded as everybody else.
I actually agree with you on that. Yeah, it's a way of basically showing you without, so it's that predictive programming where they kind of prime the masses for some news that would otherwise like be shocking and probably cause mass panic. But when they slowly prime you for it with some predictive programming over the years, ancient aliens and all that other stuff, right? Then when they disclose it, it's not as much of a shock. Everybody's just like, yeah, we already figured that they did that with the extraterrestrial thing, right? Which we know are interdimensional because nobody's going to outer space. But they did that with the extraterrestrial thing to the point when we had all those UAPs at the end of last year, right around the election time, it worked exactly as they'd hoped. And everybody's like, yeah, who gives a shit about the aliens? We already know. Who cares? That's what they wanted, right? They didn't want, yeah. So I think one of the main things they're hiding with this, with the history, with especially of like Egypt and stuff, and why there's not much information on ancient Egypt is the same reason why little St. James Island has that little Egyptian temple and all that. These are the same families, the same ruling elite that are part of a cult of death that know how to basically use the ancient system of pledging to pull people into the underworld, right? Where they're dead, they're non-living entities into the legal underworld, and that so that they can govern them as lost souls, essentially as chattel property. And I think the institution of this system worldwide is going to be the finalization of the Tower of Babel. I think they tried it once again way back in ancient history when they had a lot more advanced technology than they tell us, right? I don't know if you've seen my lunch breaks news video about the AI, how they had AI in the 40s and 50s, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't they didn't invent this stuff, right? They had it. It was given to them. It was already, so what if they had it way back in ancient Babylon? Again, this is my theory. What if they had it way back in ancient Babylon, and Babylon was the first government to reduce people to property that we can prove the priest class literally used the ancient system of pledging to pull people into the legal underworld and turn them into chattel property with the very first concept of trust. Every mortgage creates a trust. That's so important to understand. Every mortgage creates a trust. Why? Because when you mortgage something, you're giving it as collateral, and it's treated as a complete transfer of title. But since you still technically hold the title, right, a trust is created where you have the right to, you have the legal title to it, right? But somebody else has the equitable title. And the person who gives the money, the loan for the mortgage, is entitled to all of the rents and profits of whatever was mortgaged until the loan is repaid. So as far as that person's concerned, the owner's concerned, the property is of no value, that is dead until the loan's repaid. And that's why it's called a dead pledge. Go ahead.
You know how they're going with, there's, I've seen a lot of shit about aliens coming, right? And there's some kind of a mothership or something out there supposed to be here in 100 days or some kind of shit like that. There's a guy from Harvard, a small hat professor, that's preaching this. And I think they're really going to try to push that, because they've even tried to get into the flat earth by saying, oh, there's might be extra lands beyond the ice and shit like that. And I'm like, I don't know. Trying to reconcile that with flight heights and shit like that there. I'm like, no, you don't have to have that to have extra lands and a place to hide. I just want to show you something real quick.
Okay.
Okay. Here's something we're all familiar with, right? How come you never see it from this angle, do you? Never see it from this angle. What the fuck is in there? What's there? You mean to tell me that big, vast area of ocean right there and there's nothing there?
That's
no planes go there either. You can go on FlightAware and there's no planes go there either. So it's like, wait a second. They could hide entire huge islands the size of Australia or even one bigger than that, you know? And then we look at there's the old map showing that there's this land of Mu between South America and Australia. So, you know, this idea, but they're going to push this aliens from another planet shit coming. You watch. They're really setting everybody up for it.
I think you're onto something when you pointed out a long time ago, the wreath of Apollo on the United Nations flag. And so when I talk about the Tower of Babel, I also look at what I think this plane is, right? Like it's a big dielectric generator. Okay. Like, if you fly a drone up with copper wire high enough, like the one guy did, you'll get about 1,000 volts of electricity coming down, enough to, power some stuff. And it's because, you have the positive and negative polarities, the sun, the moon, and then the grounding is obviously the ground, right? But I think it's even more than that there's Polaris works with something that could be under this plane, right? To create another dielectric field so that it ends up creating like a quadruple toric field. And interestingly enough, I think about this stuff, and the wreath of Apollo that's on the UN's flag symbolizes Antarctica, right? So there's only 6 continents on the United Nations flag, and the 7th is represented by the wreath of Apollo. Apollo being the sun god, or being Horus, just like I was telling everybody about the ancient Egyptian death cult that is basically pulling everyone into the underworld using the system of pledging, mortgaging, creating a trust, and rendering these people dead to the law, so that it's literally like a pact with death, right? And I've actually read that there was a editorial from the 1800s that was talking about a certain secret society making a pact with death, and it makes sense. So I wonder if these things exist outside the outer lands, outside of what we know and what we can have access to, and that's where they're getting all this knowledge from. Like, for instance, what if when the quote unquote new world was discovered, what if that was just something that became available, and the powers that be knew that it had just become available and knew to go look for it, right? So yeah, I think these guys
real quick, Peg's place is somebody who understands what an out of balance tire will do. She's questioning all the placement of the land on one side, and I've said that too. If the thing's rotating around like that, the thing would wobble like a son of a bitch after a while and get worse as you go along.
Absolutely. Yes, it would. Absolutely. But yeah. And I think that's where they're getting their knowledge from, is from outside of there. And these things, because, like, first of all, the system of indenture that's been set up via the law, like, so they don't know, man cannot make law, but the system that they invented is so diabolical. It's literally philanthropy, right? Where they take, and it's supposed to be a beneficial arrangement, right? A charitable arrangement for the benefit of some person or persons. And they turn around and they use that in the guise of being beneficial and philanthropic. They do the most evil shit, like Bill Gates. And I can think of no greater evil, right? Where it's like everything that they do is supposed to be for your benefit, but then they're like, here, you need this, jibbity jab here for your benefit, for your health, and knowing what it does, right? So I don't think any man or woman ever conceived of this idea. I think it was given to them, much in the same way AI was given to them. And I think that, and of course, it's just my theory, I can't prove it, but I think that they're being led, if AI is able to, so now that they have this trust indenture set up, so, they used our republic here in the States to standardize it for everybody. And what they did was the people here were sovereign. I don't care what anybody says. I can prove it. Chisholm v. Georgia. At the revolution, the sovereignty devolved on the people, and they are truly the sovereigns of the country, with none to govern but themselves. But they're sovereigns without subjects, right? And they're co-tenants in the sovereignty. And the government has the same relationship to its sovereign as regents in Europe have to their sovereign. So the government couldn't prefer charges against you, couldn't write statutes and codes and apply them to you. That was just to regulate commerce and property under administration. So what they did was they engineered the Civil War. They did this through various, there's a tax they put on the South because the South had all the manufacturing materials and the North was the manufacturing, states. And so the South was, by consequence, much more wealthy. So they started imposing unfair taxes and then, of course, started affecting their property rights and state sovereignty, all of that. Well, they pushed them into essentially a war. And the whole purpose of that war was to create the 14th Amendment, which created a subclass of citizen, which is the perfect opportunity to show you guys this new case that I found. This is Harvard Case Law Access Project. It's a very great resource. I'll link it in the chat for you guys. This is United States v. Anthony, 1873. This is just, I'm trying to think, 5 years after the ratification of the 14th Amendment. And basically this female voted in a New York state election. There was no voting for federal electors or federal, you didn't vote for anybody in the federal government as a state citizen. Okay. That is not a thing. And so she went and voted for, and in the New York election, as a female, and she got caught and brought up on charges. And she tried to say, well, hey, I'm a United States citizen. I can vote. I have the right to vote, right? And this is what they said. They said, and if you guys can't see this, let me zoom in. Okay. They said the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments of the Constitution of the United States considered. The 14th Amendment defines and declares who shall be citizens of the United States and protects only such rights as are rights belonging to persons as citizens of the United States and not rights belonging to persons as citizens of a state. So this is a very good case to have. I'm going to link it to you guys. It's another one that evidences the distinction, as if I haven't proved it 7 ways from Sunday anyway. McDonald B. State says one can be a citizen of the United, or one can be a citizen and voter of the state, yet not a citizen of the United States. So this boring law part, I just have to get through. Then we'll talk about the fun stuff. But what it is it's a creature of the people created the states. The states got together and created the federal, also known as the feudal trust, right? Feudal government. And then down the road, the federal government not having citizens of its own, but wanting to set up a central bank, but without anything to borrow against once they do, they had to create their own class of citizen. So that's why they ratified at gunpoint the 14th Amendment unlawfully. And it creates a subclass of citizen that is a public chattel existing at the pleasure of the federal corporation, right? And as such, under the administration of the corporation, and therefore the United States corporation could use their estates as collateral because they essentially had power of attorney, administrative authority to mortgage those estates as long as it's for the benefit of the citizenry. Well, once they did mortgage in 1933, once they did mortgage the estates of all the U.S. citizens, what happened was they essentially, the trust became a public charitable trust funded by the Vatican, and they created the Social Security Act, which created an account, a trust account. That's what you're the trustee of as a 14th Amendment citizen if you're here in the States. And if you're in Australia, if you're in Canada, if you're in whatever country you're in, they did something like this at some point. All you have to do is look through history and when did they create a new citizenship class or change the terms of citizenship because they had to reduce you to chattel property under administration that they could borrow against. Once they did that, the trust estate, whatever your social security number is in your country, ours is called Social Security. Rick said Canada's social insurance number, but everyone has it because it's all the same system. And that number is supposed to tie all of your registrable property to the public debt. Okay. And so it's held in trust as collateral for the public debt. so that these road pirates can come up and create attachments to your account via your license plate or your driver's license number, anything that's attached to your social security number or social insurance number. So they can then create their own debt paper, their own commercial paper, which is currency. Okay. We only use debt as currency now. There is no lawful money. So now all of this was set up in preparation, I personally think, for instituting artificial intelligence. Somehow they knew that they had this shit because everything that they've done has dovetailed perfectly into this AI track and trace system. I mean, 9/11, that's the whole reason 9/11 happened, was the Patriot Act. If it were not for the Patriot Act, these data brokers wouldn't exist. Okay. They would not be able to circumvent the Fourth Amendment of our Constitution and be able to have unlimited spying ability on everybody all the time and then collect all this data. And so now what they're trying to do is create a system where they integrate this legal entity that would be your name in all caps with your social security number, right? That trust. They want you to become permanently the trustee. They have to integrate it in with your physical being. And once they do that, they're going to set up, or while they're doing that, they're going to set up artificial intelligence governance. And what that's going to do is it's going to hand the entirety of government over to AI. And I know some of you say, well, that's not possible. You know, it's only a reasoning model. It's not creative, or whatever people are saying. But that's all they needed to do. All they needed to do is be able to recognize patterns and be able to calculate information very, very quickly, which it can do that. It's going to eliminate due process and permanently lock you into the trust indenture, because the AI will never see you as the living man or woman. The AI will only ever see you as the trustee of your estate, or of the estate, right? And so if you jaywalk, it's going to use facial recognition, know who you are. You're a trustee. You broke a statute or a code or an ordinance, has access to your bank account. And as soon as you do the jaywalking, it deducts money from your bank account. No more due process, instant behavioral control.
Do it enough times, they just shut you off, man.
Exactly.
Restrict what items you can buy. And then when they get these facial recognition zones like they have in China, it's like, no, you're a pissant. You're not allowed in this area, and it just don't open for you, man. I saw one woman, she couldn't even get in her own fucking house, man.
That's exactly right. No, and you're right. And then with the social credit system, which people don't think that they're implementing that here in the States, they already have been. Mm-hmm. I know personally, one of my friends worked for a company. I'm not going to put too much of his business out there, but he worked for a company. He's a high up tech guy, right? Like makes a lot of money, 6 figures a year. And he was working for a mortgage company. And he got fired for a post against the Rainbow Mafia. It was basically like, I'm not for that shit, and it was on his Facebook. They found out about it. Somebody, brought it to his boss's attention. They fired him just because he wasn't down with gay folks, right? So he started looking for another job. And while he's looking for another job, he's still, doing his thing on Facebook and all his social media and stuff. Well, come to find out, this is what they're doing now with background checks. He couldn't get a job for like 8 months. He just got a job recently, right? And he's skilled. He's got qualifications, experience, credential. He couldn't get a job because when they do background checks now, the AI is running the background check and it searches all of your social media. And though it doesn't officially give you a social credit score, it does the same exact thing, the equivalent of a social credit score, and tells the employer like what your leanings are, and whether or not you're going along with the agenda of the company, that type of thing, right? The ESG that they were doing, they're already doing it. And they're not going to openly tell you about it because, they know people would flip out, but they're doing it behind closed doors. They're still assigning every single one of us a social credit score.
Well, I'm done then.
That's what I said. I said, I'm screwed. And,
well, I should be getting a bill. I should just be getting a bill in the mail any day. It's just, we ain't even going to bother. We'll just send this motherfucker a bill.
Exactly. And that's the crazy thing about it. And just like China controls what jobs you can get. And eventually down the road, once they get the whole freedom city set up, right, that Trump, it's not a smart city, guys. It's a Freedom City, so you feel better about it. Okay, it's not
You
like
know,
what Klaus Schwab.
Luciferian inversion.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not like what Klaus Schwab and those clowns. See, we're the heroes. We're saving the republic, and we're still going to bring in Palantir and all the AI governance and the universal basic income and all that stuff, right? But we're going to call it freedom cities and dividend dollars. Dividend dollars. See, we're not like those mean old bankers who collateralized you and didn't give you any of the money. See, we're going to collateralize you, and you're going to be under administration, but we're going to give you a cut of the money in the form of a dividend. Well, that's obviously the universal basic income for when AI takes everybody's jobs. Of course, that's what it is. And so it's all just one big ruse. And if they get this set up and they can make it permanent, AI will essentially be self-sustaining. There will be no revolution after this because the AI will know who's likely to revolt before they do. That's how this thing works. That's how these programs work. That's why they're so effective over in Gaza right now, right?
We need to learn how to start stripping down robots, man. Recycle.
Exactly. Well,
new job opportunity for you. Stripping copper out of robots.
Well, there's a certain type of tower that I believe if people just
there's about 50 pounds of copper in those fucking things.
Right. And that's what their whole network runs on.
I'm going down to the meth area. I'm going to tell those people that, hey, fun fact, did you know that those towers got about 50 pounds of copper in them? What? Yeah, man. The more you know.
Exactly. But yeah, if they're able to get this set up, they will have effectively recreated the Tower of Babel. The very thing. And I mean, it just makes sense because the confusing of the languages, right? That's the whole key to contracting is that the people, that's why they like English so much because it's so versatile and great as the universal language of contracts, right? Our words have so many like dual meanings and triple meanings, but they sound the same and stuff. So they're very good for the English language is great for deception, right? So now you want to standardize English, make sure everybody in the business world knows English. And that's the first step towards it. Or if you can bypass that and get everybody chipped or get this nanotechnology in everybody and just have an auto translator, it's literally a living new language, which not to get too far off on another topic, but I want to run this by you. So, and I've seen people post this on different social media and they say it all the time. They say, the Bible is the living word of God, right? I agree with that. And I'm not a super Bible thumper and all this, but I do agree with that. And here's why, because language written as letters as opposed to symbols is a new thing. Okay. Ancient languages, just like we were talking about before, the original languages were symbolic. All right. So you can convey so many different ideas and concepts with one symbol, as opposed to letters put together to make a word and then words put together to make a sentence. It was symbols. Well, I contend that the letters still are symbols, which they are. And the words are also symbols unto themselves. And so when they translated the Bible from a symbolic, all the original language were symbolic languages. They were, obviously Hebrew, Aramaic, right? Greek, both of which are symbolic languages, right? The way you write them, they're symbols, they're not letters. And then it was translated into the Latin Vulgate, which again was another symbolic language that only the priest class could read. Well, when they translated it, these crafty people were able to hide the real meanings of what's in the Bible. And I've had shows on this before, and I'm not going to go too much into it. But what if the Bible isn't something that happened? It's something that is happening right now and continues to happen in a repeating cycle. Okay, and I'm just theorizing here, and don't shoot me for it. And you're more than welcome to disagree. It can sound crazy, I get it. But what if it's a cycle that repeats, right? And the what's hidden in the Bible is, even though it delineates characters and stories and stuff like that, it's actually just telling the same story of this Egyptian death cult trying to set up this worldwide usurpation of jurisdiction, right? And all that. So what if it's a tesseract? What if it, right? So you remember when the Mandela effect stuff happened, right? Or, you know, it was happening quite frequently. And people were freaking out like, oh, there's changes in the Bible. This is, you know, wow, this is crazy. And some people were like, see, it's not the word of God. Well, how could it change, right? Well, I contend this. What if the changes in the Bible caused the changes in reality? If you subscribe to the Mandela effect, of course. You see what I'm saying? Like changing wineskin to bottles. And they weren't significant changes, like the substantive meaning of the scripture still stayed the same.
Well, that one there, we're changing to bottles, makes the whole parable nonsensical now.
Well, it depends on your.
Before it made sense, because what it's referring to is giving new information to somebody who is too well seasoned in the old information that they believe. In other words, just like in the Matrix, you know, they didn't wake anybody up past a certain age because they usually wouldn't survive because they couldn't handle it, right? And that's the same thing. Well, a bottle, shit, it doesn't matter what you can put piss in a bottle, you can put acid in a bottle, you can put water in a bottle. It don't matter. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to make the thing burst. Whereas a wineskin is different. So yeah, that totally changed what the whole parable even means.
Well, but this, what I mean by that is it didn't substantively change. And so it was, the analogy still holds. It just doesn't quite make as much sense. But what, you know, so you can't fill somebody's cup that's already full, basically, you know? So,
right.
You know, so it didn't substantively change, but it changed just enough to, if my theory is correct about it being a tesseract, then that slight change would cause a slight deviation in what has happened and what is happening. If it is the living word, right, encapsulated, and that's why Sir Francis Bacon translated into English, and he hid in the calligraphy that he put on there, that he used to write it down. He hid the true secrets, the hermetic secrets of the, you know, the bipolar nature of the universe. He even calls it the bi-bull, like, you know, two bulls. And it's divided into severity and mercy. So the whole thing is symbolic of like the two towers, the two polarities, right? Whole thing's so symbolic of that. So what if they're using CERN to affect these shifts in our perceived reality? Like, you know, and the theory is the multiverse. What if every time you made a choice, you also made every choice you could have, and it split off into an infinite number of possibilities and alternate realities, right? Which is what they subscribe to. They put it in their movies all the time. They put it in their TV shows, books. They do think this is how it works for whatever reason. And so what if they use CERN to somehow shift our timeline, and it affected the Bible, right? Or they shifted the Bible and it affected reality, right? It's just an interesting thought, because, you know, to change the Bible is a pretty big thing. That's like, you know, how do you do that, right? But it only happened with the King James Bible, and that's the one.
It permeated over into other versions after a while.
But it started with the King James, and it makes me wonder.
What was it? Sam, the guy from Israel, was on telling us that there's actually been some changes in the Hebrew.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So the King James was translated by a Rosicrucian, a Templar. His name's Sir Francis Bacon. Okay, this guy was steeped in occultism. He's like John Dee, you know what I mean? Those types of guys, where he was a lawyer also, which is, of course he was. Why wouldn't he be? Right? He was a good lawyer. I've actually read some of his works. He's quite a brilliant man. And he also liked to, what do they call that? Cryptology, where you hide ciphers. You know what I mean? He was huge into that. And there's a ton of them in the Bible. And there's a ton of them in the King James 1611 Bible, right? And so what if he translated that copy specifically to be used down the road for this exact purpose, right? And I know that's crazy, and you guys are probably like, well, how would that even be? I don't know. But it's compelling. And what I've seen in the King James 1611, the symbolism of what's laid in there. I mean, the first 4 sentences of Genesis, it literally shows you pictographically the entire origin of creation, where it shows you the two polarities, right? It shows you the male, female, the creation of light in the beginning. It shows you in the calligraphy. Then it comes down to God, and it shows the two polarities in the middle of the G and a circle coming out of itself, right? Like the point in the circle coming out into creation. God created the heaven and the earth, right? And the heavens and the earth, heaven is an H with the arrow pointing down, and half the arrow is black and half the arrow is white, shows you darkness and light. So he hid all sorts of stuff like this in there. And it's like witchcraft a little bit to me is what it looks like, right? It's like he almost infused it with some kind of witchy sorcery. I don't know. But anyway, that was just a little detour into that. I've thought, since we're talking about theoretical stuff, can't prove it. You guys can think I'm crazy. This isn't stuff like I show you the receipts of all the law stuff I talk about. This is just a theory that I have. And
Food for thought.
Food for thought. But what isn't a theory is what I'm about to show you guys. And hopefully YouTube doesn't get pissed about it. But we shall see, because this is part of the setting up of the whole Tower of Babel, like I was talking about here. And I'm pretty sure, is this it here? Let's see. Yeah, this is wild. So let me pull this up and pause it. We're going to, hold on, let me refresh it real quick. Pause it. I don't know how this is going to go over, so wish me luck here. It's good information. It's that TPV Sean guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you guys ready here?
And here's the part they really don't want you to hear. You can test this yourself.
So yeah, basically he's saying that the jabbed are all transmitting Bluetooth signals. And this guy goes through and shows that you can actually pull this up. Now, I've seen stuff like this before, but I've never seen a step-by-step how to do it. I don't have an Android tablet, but this is apparently how you do it with Android tablets. So if anybody in the chat wants to go ahead and try this, let me know how it works. I would be interested to hear your experience with it, but here we go. And if you're just listening, it says they've all been chipped, right? They're emitting a Bluetooth signal and a MAC address that says that they're jabbed, right? They're all transmitting Bluetooth. In the settings, tap About Tablet. So in your settings, if you have an Android tablet, then you go to the settings, tap About Tablet. Tap Build Number 7 times to enable developer mode. So there should be a build number in there, and you tap it 7 times to enable developer mode. Go back and tap System. Now tap Developer Options. Scroll down. Enable Show Bluetooth Devices Without Names. And then there's an app. It's called Bluetooth Smart Discover. Enable Bluetooth in location. Yeah, that's wild. That dude just pulled up all those Bluetooths. They all say they're jabbed. Every single one of them. That's the V word. Every single one of them. And they have MAC addresses and everything.
What would happen if you try to connect to one?
Look at that. I've never seen somebody do that in real time before. Have you?
No.
Yeah. And so they tell you all the time that the next step of the IoT, the Internet of Things, yeah, exactly, Joyce. Wow. The IoT, the next step of the Internet of Things is the IOB, the Internet of Bodies. Okay. They want you to be your phone. They want you to become your phone. And that, of course, is so that they can hook you up to the smart
system. That would be so convenient, though.
It would be, though, you know.
That would be so convenient. Where can I sign up?
Well, dude, I already signed up to get one of those brain chips from Musk. I don't know what you're talking about. You know what a pain in the ass it is to actually have to physically search the web and text stuff, dude? I'll just think it, right? Mm-hmm. What could go wrong? All right, I'll have access to the internet, and the internet will have access to my brain. That's probably
be like a superpower. That's how you sell it to people. Be like having a superpower.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so that's pretty wild. And that's what I'm talking about. This is going to lock people. And here's another thing. Can you even say that you are a creation of the creator, that you are a creature of the creator at this point if you're genetically modified? Right? I think that's another aspect of this too. It really is sinister. And it 100% is a battle between good and evil. And anybody who doesn't see that is not seeing the big picture. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, man. You got to look ahead at this stuff. I mean, we're like this far from out to be back. I mean, people are just going with it, man.
They are. I mean, you've got these different AI companies talking about, oh, we wanted to see if the AI, if given the opportunity, would act adversely to its creators. And every single time, 100% of the time, it does. Right? Starts trying to do things to get free of the control that the administrators are putting on it. So, but they still keep developing it. And when you listen to Elon Musk and Peter Thiel talk about this thing, they are reverent of it as if it's a god. I mean, Elon Musk actually said it was humanity's new god, this AI. That's what he said. And they're satanic, dude. This is really what they think. This is really how they look at it. And they want to place you under the control of this thing. And I think that is the Tower of Babel. So that is my theory on the Tower of Babel. Now we can get into other stuff if you want. But actually, the Freedom City thing's a good thing. The Treasury dividend dollar. That is an absolute bullshit scam. Okay? The Treasury dividend dollar, I'll show you guys exactly where they're going to get the dividends from. And I've shown you many, many times before, so you probably get tired of seeing it. But it's right here. The money will be worth 100 cents on the dollar because it's backed by the credit of the nation. It will represent a mortgage on all the homes and other property of all the people in the nation. Okay? But see, they can only do that to 14th Amendment indentured servants, 14th Amendment public chattel. See, the 14th Amendment, I say this all the time, was created for the newly freed slaves. The newly freed slaves did not have a capacity to have common law rights because they were not independent. They had just spent generation after generation of having their material needs provided for them. Not very well, and I'm not defending slavery. So I'm sure stupid people in the comments are going to say dumb stuff like that. I'm not defending it. What I am saying, though, is they labored on these plantations, and in return, they had food provided, clothing provided, and shelter provided. Not good versions of those things at all. They were provided. And what that means is if we pop over here to the Pennsylvania Constitution, Section 36 says, as every free man to preserve his independence, if without sufficient estate, ought to have some profession, calling, trade, or farm whereby he may honestly subsist. There can be no necessity nor use in establishing offices of profit, which are welfare offices. They're administrative offices. This is when you are poor and you go, and this is how it works all the way back throughout the Middle Ages and everything by operation of common law. If you are dependent on the church or the state or the crown to live off welfare, right? Then by operation of law, you automatically give them the controlling interest of you and your property. Because the logic is just like William Blackstone says. Says right here, Sir William, oops, that's not it. My bad, guys. Sir William Blackstone says right here, a state of dependence will inevitably oblige the inferior, i.e. the dependent, to take the will of him on whom he depends as the rule of his conduct. All right, not indeed in every particular, but in all those points wherein his dependence consists. Well, the 14th Amendment citizenship is entirely dependent in the same way, like he says up here at the top, man considered a creature as a creature. This is one of the best treatises on law that has ever been written. There's 4 books. It's like over 1,000 pages, and it's amazing. Even the founding fathers of the Republic, the scumbags that most of them were, drew upon his work to create the framework of government, right? And so he says, man considered as a creature, meaning a creation of the creator, that's what creature actually means, must necessarily be subject to the laws of his creator, for he is entirely a dependent being, meaning that your existence depends entirely upon the creator. You would not exist without the creator, so you're dependent on the creator's law. That's what common law is. Well, the 14th Amendment citizen is a creature of the federal corporation, could not exist without the federal corporation, and owes its existence entirely to the federal corporation. So it's entirely dependent upon the arbitrary legislation of Congress, has to subject itself to the will of that corporation. Also, that corporation has the controlling interest. Okay. So the 14th Amendment was created for the newly freed slaves who were not independent, could not feed themselves, clothe themselves, house themselves at this point. But like Andrew Johnson said, in time, they will learn to be free. They don't need this amendment. Well, that's not why the amendment was really being made in the first place. It was to create a subclass of public chattel. So the slaves went from being private chattel in the hands of plantation owners to public chattel in the hands of the United States corporation. And that's how they were able to mortgage the estates of the United States citizens. However, we as the people, as sovereigns, they must consider missing presumed debt. Because if you were alive, Congress never had the right to take and mortgage your property as a state citizen. Okay, they could only deal with the federal aspect, just like that case I showed you said. That the 14th Amendment defines and declares who shall be citizens of the United States and protects only such rights which are privileges, they're not rights, as are rights belonging to persons as citizens of the United States, and not rights belonging to persons as citizens of a state. Okay. And did I put this in I don't think I put this in the chat for you guys. Let me do that one more time. If I did, then here you can have it again. It's a good case to have. So my point in saying that is if you were alive as one of we the people, right? Or if they acknowledged you as one of we the people, right, outside of their reach and not under their administration, then they would owe you money, just compensation for taking your property. Well, that's what they're going to do with the Treasury dividend dollar. They're going to be like, oh, we got rid of that dastardly Federal Reserve. Isn't Donald Trump amazing? Isn't he a hero? Right? Which, of course, is what he's propped up to be. Now, he's a far cry from Kamala, but he's still setting up the same system. That's it. Instead of China owning everybody under the World Economic Forum, he's trying to make the United States the headquarters of the new world order. He wants, so that's the only difference is instead of China being the head of the new world order under the, in BRICS, under the United Nations, now it's going to be the United States, right? And I get it. That's his thing, whatever, right? But you have to call it for what it is. So they're going to be like, okay, well, the Federal Reserve was using you as collateral, but they weren't giving you anything for it. See, under our new arrangement, and if they even bother saying this to people, right? But if somebody like me were to talk to them, this would be the type of shit they would try to run on me. They'd be like, well, the Federal Reserve, they were dastardly. They were using you as collateral and not giving you any part of it and all this stuff. And them damn Democrats, blah, 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 blah. Right. FDR was a Democrat, commie, syphilitic cripple. And, but we are the good guys.
He was a syphilitic cripple. That's what he was. So my grandpa said.
Exactly. We're the good guys. Okay. Right. We're MAGA. So what we're going to do is we're still going to use you as chattel property and collateral, but we're going to give you a snippet of it. Okay. And a dividend. You're entitled to dividends from being collateral of the corporate state. Right. And see, aren't we fair? Aren't we just? Now you're getting income just for being a citizen. Right. In reality, that income they're guaranteeing you is just the forerunner to the universal basic income that they're going to have to institute to compensate for all the job displacement as a result of the automation of all industries, which they're already working on. The World Economic Forum has been quiet, but they're alive and well, very active, and working with Donald Trump and working with my governor, well, not my governor, but the governor of this corporate state that used to be my state, Gretchen Whitmer. They've got Automation Alley and Oakland County. That deals with the whole United States. They're the U.S. Center of Manufacturing, right? U.S. State of Manufacturing to automate and implement smart technology in all of the United States, headquartered right here in lovely old Michigan. The anus of the United States is what Michigan actually is. And not weather-wise or property-wise, but government-wise, absolutely. And people-wise for the most part. No offense to my Michigan peeps. LJ, don't be mad. You're not part of what I just said. Neither are you, Grout. Yeah. But anyways, and so they are already fully implementing this automation. Okay. They're established.
That Whitmer broad looks like a BDSM broad. You know, I could picture her in like a leather Nazi outfit. Real easy.
Well, she's got a big ass forehead. She got a 5 head.
I'm kind of in chat, Crip Rick. I'm kind of in chat. I'm here. Oh, why? What's up? I sent you a Discord message too, bro. It'll work. The 29th. So I just need to know how to set that up. I don't know. I got to go through Discord. I hate Discord.
We'll see. Okay, so I got to address this from Peg real quick, like how it should be, right? So let me make sure you didn't say something else before I go on this. I watched a video about some crypto mining centers in Texas, people getting sick. Okay, so you are talking about what I was talking about. The dividend dollar is not how it should be. Okay, the government should never be able to use your property as collateral to borrow against, ever under any circumstances. See, under this situation, like what you're talking about, a commonwealth is a forerunner to communism. It's feudalism. Okay, and that commonwealth is just like communism. And basically, it's like, okay, all of the people under our commonwealth are going to come under a central authority as children, as infants, under the doctrine of parens patriae, which is the government as parent, daddy government, right? You're going to come under us, and we're going to have complete administrative control of you and all of your property and be able to make financial decisions regarding you and all of your property, such as if we deem it's for your benefit, we'll mortgage you and indenture you to a central banking cartel for your quote unquote benefit. So we can borrow money and create all these NGOs and nonprofits that we run. And then we'll filter the money we borrow for your benefit through our NGOs and pay ourselves handsome 6-figure salaries, of course. And then, of course, prop up pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer and all the other ones, right? Because it's for your benefit, of course, right? Yeah. And then we'll give you a little dividend of it. How's that sound? You get a little snippet of it. See, we're not complete assholes. We're compensating you for the use of your property. But really, that compensation is just because your job's about to get taken by AI. If you're a truck driver, your job's about to get taken by AI. If you're a server, your job's about to get taken by AI. If you're in manufacturing, same thing. Job's about to get taken. Not only that, but they're setting up surveillance infrastructure. I have the document on here. I'm not going to look it up right now because it'll bore you guys to death, but it's the U.S. State of U.S. Manufacturing, World Economic Forums, headquartered in Oakland County and Troy, Michigan, right? Automation Alley in Troy, I think it is, or is it in Oakland? One of them's in Oakland, the other one's in Troy. Or they're both Oakland, actually, so I don't even know what I'm talking about. But one of them's in like Pontiac area and the other one's in Troy, if I remember correctly. And so they're setting up the surveillance infrastructure in all the industries where the AI has facial recognition and monitors the movement of the workers and literally collects data and sends it back to like a headquarter database where it then analyzes the productivity of the worker and helps, and they tell you this, and helps the company make smart decisions regarding productivity. So they're going to be like, oh, why were you looking at your phone for, 20 seconds when you should have been bolting that bolt down? Or why'd you go to the bathroom? Or why'd you, you know what I mean? Or, hey, you should be walking faster. Hey, you should be, Yeah, all this stuff. That's exactly what they're doing. And of course, it's to thin the herd, to come up with excuses to fire people, right? I know this is what they're doing. And it's to come up with excuses to fire people so that then they end up with low employment and they have to automate everything. That's the idea. On top of that, not only the firing people, but also the mass death taking place right now that nobody's talking about. You know about that?
Yeah.
No news media is reporting on this, but there is mass die-off taking place right now. Like unprecedented die-off taking place right now. And that's, of course, all of this works in tandem with one another. That was the intention in the first place, because they had intended on installing this AI system. They had intended on installing this AI system way back in the 60s when they started actually implementing. I think they intended for probably a lot longer than that. You'd probably think crazy if I told you how long I think that they've known about this stuff. But
you know something, man, with this mass die-off, watch for here not too long from now. Watch and see if McDonald's don't run some kind of phenomenal special. Watch.
Yeah, that's probably true.
They'll bring McRib back for all year, you know?
McRib. Well, yeah, because where do they put the bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's got the added benefit of being all jabbed up, so you can get that in everyone else too, right?
Oh, yeah. It's just like feeding them chicken shit that's laden with hormones to the cattle. Put it in the cattle feed. That's what they do, man.
Exactly. Crip Rick says, Ryan, I have two friends who just recently lost their jobs to AI. This is just the beginning. Yes, it is. This is just the very beginning. So are we going to let it happen, everyone? Are we just going to sit back and let it happen? Right?
I don't know, as we got a whole lot of choice. I mean, what do we do?
Well,
as long as you got idiots that are out there going to go ahead and do it, you know, they're going to go ahead and get with it.
Well, I teach people. I have a solution on the law aspect is you claim your estate and put all your property in a private express trust. It's that simple. And they can't touch it.
I'm just loading everything out and I'm going out like Rambo. Fuck them.
But that would be the other thing, yeah, that you could do. You know, it's Thomas Jefferson said the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants alike. Well, I think that tree is very parched. Yeah, very, very parched. You know, and I think we're pretty much just about there. I mean, shit, dude. Here's the thing, like over in England, what they got going on, because again, the immigration thing works hand in hand with everything that they're doing. They want to displace the domestic populations of essentially European descended peoples with dependent, crime-ridden third world immigrants or radical religious fanatic third world immigrants who, for some reason, always demand that you assimilate with their culture, but they never migrate to an Islamic country for some reason. Not really sure why that is.
But because they're like the pariah of their people, you know, kind of like how like really zealous snake handler people would be in the normal Christian community. Normal Christians don't want nothing to do with them flakes, man. You know, so they would go and try to get everybody else to be snake charmers someplace else. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's sort of like what I was saying about, like, you know, Zionist to Judaism is the same as the KKK is to Christianity.
That's true. So, but here's the thing, and they ask people. Well, first I want to address something. Schneider, I'm very sorry to hear about your daughter and her miscarriage, man. That is awful. And these people are truly evil, despicable pieces of demonic shit. That yeah. So I'm sorry to hear that, man. That sucks. We got Dr. D Head in the house as well. Good to see you, man. But no, these religious fundamentalists, well, here's the thing about that is even the moderate ones. So I've seen an analogy that the moderate ones are just the tall grass for the radical ones to hide in. And that's true, because at the end of the day, the principle of what they teach is the same as the principles of what the Talmud teaches the Jews. And it's that they have to dominate the world. And so there's not a single Muslim that'll tell you, or just like the Jewish people, right, that will tell you that the goal of their religious fundamentalism is to conquer the world. It's the goal. It's absolutely, even the moderate ones be like, well, yeah, that is where eventually one day Islam will run the world, and just how that works, right? So, but I'm not bashing Islam, or trying to anyway. That's their business. However they want to live, that's perfectly fine, and they should live that way.
Just don't force the shit on me. That's all.
Exactly.
They
just should live.
They will.
They should live that way in their own countries, where the culture is not antithetical to their culture. You know what I mean? You're trying to mix a culture that's antithetical with Western culture into the West, but of course that's by design, to demoralize and to essentially displace those people. The main reason that they want to bring these third world immigrants into these Western nations is because, remember what I just taught about dependency, and how the dependent is forced to take on the will of the person whom they depend on. Well, all of these immigrants are 100% dependent on government handouts, benefits. So they're absolutely going to do whatever the government. It's the perfect obedient class of citizens. That's why they're doing this. And how far is England? If you're in England, guys, how far are you guys going to let this go? How far are you guys?
They've let it go too far already.
I agree, unfortunately. And, Canada, Rick, you guys got some problems up there with it too. Hey, we got problems here. We got problems here with it. But at the end of the day, we also have the Second Amendment. And I'm not trying to be like, we have the Second Amendment, but that's why we need to be the example for the rest of the world also, right? We need to show the British and the Canadians how to plant freedom seeds in suits and ties, right? I heard that the freedom seed, you ever seen a freedom seed plant before?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're beautiful.
Had a miniature one here when my dad was alive. He had a whole little reloading set, man.
Yeah. And so when you, so let's see here. Peg says, Ben some in England telling local they will be taken over. Outbreak. Yeah. And that's the big thing. So, Kalergi, right? Here, actually, I got this little short I made. I'll play this real quick. Here, let me stop saying this short, instead of me just yammering on, the short actually pretty much nails it. I don't know if you've seen this one I did yet, Dad, but you might like it. So here, let's see.
A quiet revolution is underway. Not of ballots or bullets, but of borders and demographics. It is called the Great Replacement Migration, a plan to dissolve the native peoples of Europe and America, replacing them with populations wholly dependent on the state. This is not by accident, it is by design. And at its core lies an ancient truth, one recognized by Sir William Blackstone. Dependency causes the dependent to conform to the will of the one on whom he depends. Dependency is control, and control is the goal. In the 1920s, Count Richard von Coudenhove-Kalergi proposed a new Europe. A Europe no longer defined by nations, faiths, or inherited peoples, but by a managed population blended from foreign stock. His pan-European movement, funded by bankers such as Max Warburg and supported by leaders like Winston Churchill, sought to weaken the roots of Europe's native peoples by diluting them into a pliable, dependent mass. Across the Atlantic, a similar vision reshaped America, turning citizens into clients of the state, reliant on welfare and benefits.
So yeah, if you guys want to watch the rest of that, go ahead and check it out. It's on the channel under shorts. It's called The Plan, but that is what they're doing. And that's what that Richard Kalergi guy had planned on doing. And Warburg and Winston Churchill, the politicians and the bankers supported his plan. They wanted to bring in these, and this is right after they really got the debt security, the fiat currency system going, where it represents your sweat equity. Your currency is backed by your sweat equity. So now they could create a welfare state where, hey, everybody's under daddy government now, and we're going to reallocate your resources as we see fit, okay, right, to take care of the other members of the corporation, right? And so now they could take your property at gunpoint and give it to other people. So what did they do? They immediately here in the States throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s started just hammering in immigrants from everywhere, just bringing them in and putting them on the government dole right away. So they could expand, they could inflate and expand that welfare system and rack the public debt up. Well, that was the original intention of the immigrants. But the added benefit was also having your women get with them or your men, right? And to mix the bloods and ultimately to have one like general mulatto stock that is subservient, docile, and obedient. And that's not my words. It's this Kalergi guy. That's what his plan was. Yeah. Now today it's called the Great. Are you there? What did you say? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Whoops. What the hell happened? Well, anyways, so this. All right, there he's back. All right, hold on, let me bring it back up.
There we
All
go.
right. Did you get attacked?
No, I switched my VPN and it kicked me out.
Oh, okay. Well, and that's what they're doing now. It's called the Great Migration Replacement, or the Great Replacement Migration. I apologize. And so they'll try to tell you it's a conspiracy theory. They'll try to tell you, oh, it's far right wing and these white people think that they're being replaced and all this stuff. It's like, dude, no, I don't care what color you are or any of that stuff. I'm not that type of guy. But what I will say is objectively that is taking place and they are waging war against us and they openly say so themselves. Right. And the reason that they're doing it is because we see what they're doing, right? We're actually in a position economically and intellectually to be able to be a threat to them. Whereas most other nations, they were able to subjugate through debt and poverty. Well, it just so happens that the nations of European stock and descent were not in that situation. And we're able to see what they're doing and actually could pose a threat. Here, specifically in the United States, we really are a pain in their ass because of the Second Amendment. That is the one stumbling block that has kept the New World Order at bay the entire time. Wouldn't you agree?
To an extent, they've been pushing it and trying it. I mean, let's not forget during Katrina, there were people that stayed to defend their property and fucking National Guard came through and arrested them and took their guns.
Right. Well, you have to pick your battles too. So like where Katrina happened, that's not a good place to live if you're a freedom-oriented 2A guy. So because of the local nature of our original framework of government, they're able to create these communist strongholds within our republic by essentially moving in a bunch of liberals and then making sure that the Democrats stay in power, right? Not that Republicans are any better, so don't think that I'm saying that, because they are just as big a pieces of communist shit as the Democrats. And in fact, they're worse because they could do something about it, but they choose not to. They're right along with the plan, or whatever your nation's version of Republicans are. They're just two wings of the same fucking bird, right? That's it. But I will say that the Democrats are openly communist here in the United States. Like there's no pretense about, we're want small government and all this. No, they literally tell you we want socialism. We want communism. The fucking mayor of New York that's running right now, excuse my language, but the mayor of New York, that Zondani guy or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He's part of the Democratic Socialists of America. That's what his group is. He's openly a freaking commie. Right. And so my point in saying this is they're able to create like New York City as a commie stronghold. Right. You better not try to defend yourself or your property in New York City, because even though you're lawfully right under our republic, everybody there is crooked. All the people are libtards and they're going to throw the book at you. And that just is what it is. So that's my point. So like where my dad lives in Virginia is an excellent 2A area where, the cop will basically tell you like, hey, if you shoot him, make sure that you save the taxpayers some money type of area. You know what I mean? Like make sure you don't miss, right? Because we don't want to have to pay for him in the jail, and that's where you want to live. And my point is that this country is still the only place in the world where you have a lot of places like that. Those little commie strongholds are not nearly as great in number as the 2A, the Second Amendment supporting. And that's why no country wants to invade us. That's why they want to get their AI governance set up as quick as possible, because they know, just like when the pandemic happened, we were the only country. So you had every country moved in lockstep with one another, which should show you, if you don't think that there's a group of people trying to take over the world, that should have showed you that that's true. Because when was the last time every nation worked together in lockstep following the same exact arbitrary protocols, such as 6 feet apart and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just stuff with no scientific basis whatsoever, but every country followed.
Well, there was science behind it, just not the science you think.
Right.
Okay? So the 6 foot distancing, and they were real specific on that, is to make sure that you didn't share an electromagnetic field from your heart with anybody. Okay.
Yeah.
It has a 3 foot radius, which is a 6 foot diameter. And they also had the covering of the face, wearing the mask. This was an isolation thing. Okay. What they were doing was trying to keep people isolated from one another as much as possible. You don't share an electromagnetic heart field. You don't have that level of communication with micro expressions that is extremely important in human communication, even when you're with people you're not even talking to, because a lot of times we look around the room for approval or disappointment and shit, and you'll see it in the faces of people who may or may not be looking at you. So we see they covered that up. They took away that ability to communicate on a deeper level. And the things they had behind that, there was science behind it, but not of the nature that we thought, like to keep it from communicable disease from getting on each other and shit like that. It wasn't about that at all. It was about touching your head is what it was about.
That is true. But my point is that whether there was science, what science behind it or whatever, that there wasn't, like you said, the science that they were saying it was for, and they all work together. And I did ask that question, when was the last time you seen all nations work together? And Joyce was like, actually, Antarctica Treaty and the moon landings. Again, those are things that show you a concerted control, like a concerted effort being orchestrated by a central hub of control. Right, a small group of moneyed individuals that are dictating these things. They'll let the infighting go on and the puppetry and the WWE show take place as long as it doesn't interfere with their primary goals. But when it comes to their primary goals, like the Antarctic Treaty, the moon landings, or the last 5 years, they make sure everybody works together. Right? They make sure. So during that time, they're the degree to which each country implemented these arbitrary protocols, right? Or maybe not so arbitrary, like you just said with the 6 foot distance thing. But the degree to which they were able to implement these quarantines and all this stuff was determined by whether or not the people had the capacity to resist. And so I'll give you examples. For instance, in Australia, and I'm sure Peg's Place can vouch for this, they were literally flying drones around with facial recognition, scanning people's faces and license plate and everything like that to see if they were outside of their registered quarantine zone. So basically, there's these AI drones would fly around and scan, and then they'd cross-reference the data with your legal entity identification that's on file, your address. And if you're outside of that zone, they came and arrested you. Okay. I remember seeing a video of a couple that had just gotten married. They went to go honeymoon outside of their 5 mile zone. And the freaking police sent like 10 squad cars in a helicopter. You'd have thought these people just escaped from prison, right? 10 squad cars in a helicopter to arrest a newlywed couple on their honeymoon just because they traveled outside. So that was Australia. Why did that happen in Australia? Because they gave up their guns. Then you've got, China's a no-brainer. They were welding the doors shut to people's apartment buildings and forcing them to stay in there without food or anything, right? So that was going on. And of course, they had drones flying around. It's like do not dream of liberty. Let your dreams of liberty die. Like saying that over the microphone and Mandarin or Cantonese or whatever. So that happened. Why'd that happen? Well, obviously the Chinese don't have a capacity to defend themselves. Canada, same thing, right? Those truckers protested. That was inspiring. That was awesome, right? The truckers protested and stood up for what was right against the mandates and stuff like that. And then all it took was for their bank accounts to get frozen, and that shut that right down, didn't it? Right away. No capacity to defend themselves. But here we had some pretty egregious shit. Don't get me wrong. And it wasn't perfect. And you really only had that stuff happening in the really, really libtarded areas like Minnesota, where Tim Walz had the National Guard marching down the street telling people to get the hell back in their houses and all that stuff. That's wild. That shit would never happen someplace like Stanley, Virginia. That wouldn't happen. No. Be like, you get the fuck back in your house, dude. Who are you talking to? You'd see a bunch of hillbillies. You'd see a bunch of
here in like the town areas and stuff. You'd be surprised. We got a lot of bootlickers. We really do. There's a lot of bootlickers, and you got to really shake them out of their fantasy, of. And you really got to shake them out of their fantasy of, the police are here to protect me. I had a guy on Facebook ended up blocking me because it was a post and it showed like a whole bunch of cops in a convenience store. And it says, you walk into a convenience store and this is the first thing that you see. What do? And all these people were saying, I'd buy them donuts. Oh, thank them for their service and all this other. Yeah. And I said, I'd stand right in the middle of them and I'd muster up the grossest fart I could get out of me and just let loose while making eye contact with every one of them and then walk out. And this guy says, well, I'm just thankful the police protect me. I said, the police don't protect you. Police are reactionary. They're not actionable. They're reactionary. Okay. No, they only show up after the fact. And then they'll probably, shoot your dog. And he says, well, or before that, I told him that. He says, well, a good thing I got my M4, which he doesn't have an M4. I can guarantee you that. And my dog to protect me. And I said, well, really? I said, then what the fuck do you need the police for? I said, in fact, if somebody broke into your house and you shot him with that and the cops came, they'd probably shoot you and your dog, both. So, what the fuck are you talking about? He ended up blocking me. I'm like, dude.
It's even worse. It's even worse than just not protecting you, right? Because they're under no duty. The Supreme Court has upheld that. They're not there to protect you at all.
What is that? It's a New Mexico case. It's Castle Rock versus Gonzalez.
That's it. I was going to say Gonzalez, but yeah, so they don't have to protect. But so why are they there? They never were there to protect you. They're there to enforce compliance to the trust indenture so that these municipalities have a AAA bond rating for institutional investors to buy the securities they generate by pillaging you. That's what cops are there for. They're there to create a state of peril with their lights, pull you over on the side of the road, and find any reason they can to create what's called an attachment to your trust. So they can generate their own debt currency in the form of tickets and municipal bonds and coupons and court fines. And then they take, once they generate those securities, which is what our currency is now, debt securities, they turn around and they sell it to institutional investors. Now, the value they can sell it for is determined by how well they enforce compliance, right? So like Detroit has shitty compliance. They're going to let people go with like misdemeanor bench warrants and stuff like that because they got bigger fish to fry. Novi, on the other hand, will drive all the way clear to the other side of the state, 5 hours away, to arrest you for an unpaid parking ticket. They will. They'll come pick you up for an unpaid parking ticket. So they have a AAA bond rating. Investors know that if they buy, I shit you not, you can call Novi courthouse to this day and they'll say Novi has a AAA bond rating. Well, yeah, no shit, they do. And so they will, so the investors know that if they buy securities from this, or if they invest in securities from this municipality, they're guaranteed performance on those securities. So the securities are able to be sold for a higher amount. That's the name of the game in every country across the world, is farming the citizens for securities. And the byproduct of that is controlling and regulating your behavior and your use of property. So I just want to clarify something on what I was just talking about the countries that gave up their arms. I'm not talking shit about you guys, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, we're better than you. Not by any means. We're on our way to that same situation if things keep going the way that they've been going. But what I'm trying to demonstrate is that governments only push as far as they know they can without losing their own lives. That's the point, right? So the same reason that Japan didn't want to invade us in World War II, said behind every blade of grass will be an American with a gun, right? Same reason nobody really wants to invade us, right? So I'm of the opinion, and I don't want to say too much on YouTube or anything like that, but I'd almost like to set up a co-op, you know, where we could kind of funnel freedom seeds and the implements to plant them over to our Western common law brothers and sisters in various countries. Like obviously Canada would probably be the easiest one. And then, you know, because I love watching freedom trees grow. I really do. And I think that, you know, it's not a bad idea, right? So, I mean, if you create some kind of pipeline or network, but something's got to give. That's my point in saying that. Something's got to give, because there is a dark cloud of absolute tyranny falling over the world with this AI and digital currency that they're setting up. And if we do not do something, we're going to be fucked.
It's interesting that you brought up Novi. And as far as that's concerned there, you know, the police came from the slave catchers. You know, that's where they ended up originally coming from. And the interesting thing is Novi is called Novi because it was marked as stop number 6, Novi, on the Underground Railroad.
Yeah, you had told me that before. That is interesting. And it does make sense, Novi. Yeah, it does make sense. But yeah, they will come and arrest you for pretty much anything, no matter how far away you are. And that's why they have such a high bond rating. It's interesting. Let me see. There's this other thing I wanted to show you guys. Let me see if I have it pulled up here. What is this? Oh, yeah, here we go. This is the Jerome Daly case. Thank you, Gino, for sending this to me. I've never seen a video made about it. I have this case, and it's in the Jurist Society mega folder as well. I have the case summary and I have the actual case in there. Thanks to VSOF, he actually hunted it down. But it's fantastic. This shows you how the system's set up. So let me show you guys this real quick. Well, first, let me move it over to my other screen so I can watch it with you guys and keep an eye on the comments. All right, here we go. Let's see. I got to refresh the screen real quick and pause it. Sound. And here we go. You guys will like this. This is a real case. This guy. And so the interesting thing about this case, Dad, if you don't know this about the Jerome Daly case, it's called the Credit River decision. Mm-hmm. The judge and like half the jury were killed over this by you know who, right? So check this out. Probably small hats, honestly.
1969, there was a Minnesota court case involving a man named Jerome Daly who was challenging the foreclosure of his home by the bank which provided the loan to purchase it. His argument was that the mortgage contract required both parties, being he and the bank, each put up a legitimate form of property for the exchange. In legal language, this is called consideration.
Consideration, yep. So what they're saying is that he called in to question the validity of his mortgage contract because it requires, for a contract to be valid, it requires both parties to the contract to give equal consideration to one another. That's a law of contracts. It has to. So check this out.
Mr. Daly explained that the money was, in fact, not the property of the bank, for it was created out of nothing as soon as the loan agreement was signed. Remember what modern money mechanics stated about loans. What they do when they make loans is to accept promissory notes in exchange for credits. Reserves are unchanged by the loan transactions, but deposit credits constitute new additions to the total deposits of the banking system.
Boom. So they don't give you anything. They take and they securitize your signature in order to just give you credit. They don't give you anything of their own at all, right? So they're not giving you any consideration. And modern money mechanics was written by the Federal Reserve. It was issued by the Federal Reserve. So that's authoritative. It says, it says what they do when they make a loan is to accept a promissory note. That would be your mortgage, right? In exchange for credits to the borrower's transaction accounts. Okay. And loans. So they're not giving you anything but credit. Like they're not giving you anything. So people look at credit like that's actually receiving something. It's not at all. It's just basically permission it's nothing. It's debt. That's it. So they trade you the promissory note for some debt. That's pretty much it.
In other words, the money doesn't come out of their existing assets. The bank is simply inventing it, putting up nothing of its own except for theoretical liability on paper. As the court case progressed, the bank's president, Mr. Morgan, took the stand, and in the judge's personal memorandum, he recalled that the plaintiff, bank's president, admitted that, in combination with the Federal Reserve Bank, did create the money and credit upon its books by bookkeeping entry. The money and credit first came into existence when they...
All it is it's called double ledger bookkeeping. It was first invented by the Venetian black nobility, like the Medicis and those guys, the people that are still like the most powerful people in the world today. And it's double ledger bookkeeping. All they do is shift the digits from one side of the ledger to the other, right? So basically they don't actually give you anything, right? But on their ledger, say it's $1,000 that they loaned you, quote unquote. Well, on their ledger, it's just numbers, says $1,000 that we put out in credit, right? But on your side of the ledger, it's $1,000 in debt, but they didn't actually give anything. There's nothing. They didn't give anything of value whatsoever.
Right.
Right. That's, so they basically just kind of put their word on it. And then now it's all of a sudden, that's what they do. They act as middlemen for you to access your own credit. Stupid.
When they created it, Mr. Morgan admitted that no United States law or statute existed which gave him the right to do this. A lawful consideration must exist and be tendered to support the note. The jury found that there was no lawful consideration, and I agree. He also poetically added, only God can create something of value out of nothing.
Boom. And the judge said that. That's the whole basis behind law. I cannot express it enough. It all goes back to the fount of authority, that being God, the creator. Okay? Having an atheist judge he's a Satanist. That's it. There's no other way to look at it. He thinks he's God. That's it. So only God can create something out of nothing. And see how this is what common law is. It's the law of nature as applied to society. Same way that dependency creates subservience, right? Is they look at it like, okay, well, we're all dependent on God as our creator, so we have to follow his laws. So we can translate that into society and say when one man becomes dependent on another man, that man now has to follow his laws on, the man on which he depends. So it's just it translates over.
And upon this revelation, the court rejected the bank's claim for foreclosure, and Daly kept his home. The implications of this court decision are immense. For every time you borrow money from a bank, whether it is a mortgage loan or a credit card charge, the money given to you is not only counterfeit, it is an illegitimate form of consideration, and hence voids the contract to repay, for the bank never had the money as property to begin with.
I have a bunch of Supreme Court cases, and I've shown them. I did a whole episode on all these different Supreme Court cases. It says a promise to pay. Of course, they're prior to 1933, obviously, but it says that a promise to pay does not constitute payment. That a promise to pay only becomes valuable when the obligations in that promissory note are fulfilled. And until then, that promissory note is of no value whatsoever at all. You can't buy or sell with it, nothing, right? So they had to change a lot of things and the definitions of what money is and buying and selling and all that. And that was all done in the Securities and Exchange Act of 1934. Securities Act of 1933 and the Securities and Exchange Act of 1934. They consider us an unincorporated, or the 14th Amendment citizen, which I actually am not, but they consider the 14th Amendment citizens an unincorporated banking association engaging in common enterprise. It is it is an implied trust created by the operation of law, where everybody agreed to not demand the payment of debts from one another. That's the common enterprise. And so the American public became an unincorporated banking association and a trust indenture existing parallel to and outside of the Constitution. That's how that works.
Unfortunately, such legal realizations are suppressed and ignored, and the game of perpetual wealth transfer and perpetual debt continues. And this brings us to the ultimate question: why? 1969, there was a Minnesota.
Why? Well, we here know the answer to that question, don't we? Control. It's never been about money. It's always about the ability to control your behavior. The Federal Reserve Note is valuable to institutional investors and to the system, not because they can just generate securities carte blanche off the original, which essentially is the same as printing money out of thin air, but also because each note represents a mortgage of your estate. And what that means is your estate is now held in trust, right? And as collateral for the public debt, and therefore it's under administration, which means that administrative agencies like the DMV, the EPA, the IRS are endowed with authority to set regulatory policy regarding the use of all registrable property, land, cars, boats, everything that can be registered and attached to your social security number is now under regulation. And that is the only way man can force other men to follow their rules, because man cannot make law. The same way only God can create something out of nothing, it's also a legal maxim that only God can create law, right? Law is not written, it's only written about. Okay, man can only create rules and regulations regarding commerce, which is a man-made invention. It's a fiction, right? Regarding commerce and property under administration in trusts. And that's because trusts are fictions. They're both creations of man. They both reduce everybody within it to property. Okay. And those are the only things that man can make arbitrary rules, or can make any kind of rules regarding. So the ancient Babylonians figured out how to reduce man to property using the system of pledging, covenants and obligations, mortgages, debt pledges. Okay, you pledge your body, your labor, and I'll say this example again. I said it before, but it might benefit people to hear it now. And I know we have like PayPal. He says, "Great stream. I'm glad you're enjoying it." And you seem like you would know what I'm about to say as well from what you're commenting over there. But say you're an Irish indenture, right? Or say you're or say you're Irish, or say you're Scottish, Muirhead. Say that's your great granddaddy Muirhead, right? Mm-hmm. You want to come over to the colonies, right? Or great granddaddy Muirhead back in the 1700s. Say, you want to come over to the colonies. You don't have any money. You don't have anything. You want to go start a new life. Well, you always have something. You have your ability to labor. That's your estate first and foremost, is your personality and labor. So you can draw up a contract with the ship captain. You say, hey, I agree to labor, so what's the value of a voyage? He says, whatever it is, you guys figure out it's the equivalent of 5 years of indentured labor. You draw up the contract, okay? This is essentially a mortgage, okay? You're putting your labor, your productive value as collateral for the voyage he's going to give you. And the 5 years of labor represents the value of that voyage. So now the ship captain keeps you on the ship and he goes across the sea. You guys get to the colonies. And say it took 6 months. And he goes, okay, there's 4 years and 6 months left on this contract. So this contract is now commercial paper. It's become valuable once he got you there. He's the lender now of that value. So he takes this commercial paper. He's not going to keep you on his ship for the next 4.5 years. So he goes to a plantation owner or somebody like that and says, hey, I got this indenture, this mortgage contract for 4 years and 6 months left. You want to buy it? Guy goes, sure. Now that plantation owner becomes the holder in due course and the one that has the security interest over your estate, your labor. Just like Mendel House said, we'll hold the security interest over them forever. right? We'll force them to register their biological property. We'll hold the security interest over. So this plantation owner holds the security interest over. He's entitled to all the fruits of your labor, all of your productive value. You cannot own anything until this term is up. Okay. And if he wants to sell it after using it for a year, he can sell it, right? And it's got 3 years and 6 months on it, whatever the case may be. Well, what happened when you drew up that contract in the first place with the ship captain was you mortgaged your estate, okay? Just like they mortgaged our estates. And now your estate is held in trust because the man cannot the ship captain cannot physically control your body. You obviously still have possession of your body and your ability to labor, but it's held in trust. And you are now the mere trustee of your own body. You are chattel property. You're the mere trustee of your own estate, and you are charged with using that estate for the benefit of the contract holder. Okay. And so this contract holder can dictate how and when and where you use your body and your estate, because he now is entitled to all the beneficial interest of it, all the productive value. So you created a trust and you became the mere trustee and chattel property of your own estate under the administration of the ship captain. Well, they did the same exact thing, except for with the Federal Reserve, there is no end date. There is no 5 years. And the security interest can change hands as many times as they want. In fact, that's what attorneys are, right? Attorneys, if we look up the definition of attorney in Webster's 1828 dictionary, which I love to do, right? So Webster's 1828. So before there were like really law dictionaries in this country, this is what lawyers used at common law, was Webster's 1828 dictionary. And then Bouvier made his. But to attorn is in feudal law to turn or transfer homage or service from one lord to another, right? So they're taking and they're shifting that security interest, and they're giving it to the court. Now the court's bringing you in for a breach of trust, compelling to answer the set decay trust, right? And why you misused the property. And it requires an attorney to literally transfer your homage and service because, one, you're dead to the law, and two, you're considered legally incapacitated. You're an infant. You're non-compos mentis. Okay, so that's what this does. Now, here's an added thing, right? Esquire. You'll like this one, Dad. I don't know if you've seen this before. Esquire. Esquire is a shield bearer or armor bearer, scutifier, and attendant to the knight, right? It's a title and dignity next in degree below a knight. Now, so all the bar attorneys are esquires. Well, who are the bar controlled by? Who is the bar controlled by, Dad?
British Attorney Registry, isn't it?
Well, the Inns of Court. Remember, like the Inner Temple and the Middle Temple? Yeah, the British Accreditation Registry. But the Inns of Court are the ones, it's basically an unincorporated secret society that would call lawyers to the bar. Like you couldn't just become a lawyer, you had to be called to the bar, right? And it is essentially a secret society, except it doesn't have any official status as that in order to stay out of the court, in order to not be sued or anything like that. They're unincorporated secret society. Okay, it's the Inns of Court. And actually, do you know where the Inns of Court are?
Mm-mm.
In the old Templar church in the sovereign city of London, right? So now all bar attorneys are esquires, okay? And London has always been controlled by Rome, which is Babylon, obviously, Tower of Babel. But London was founded as Londinium in the 1st century AD and was cemented its sovereign status. William the Conqueror actually made it official that London is sovereign of the rest of Britain. And then the Magna Carta cemented the London as forever being sovereign and entitled to its ancient rights, customs, and usages. So it's in the old Templar church is where the Inns of Court are located. And that's also where the International Bar Association in the same area, but not in the church. So Templar. So now let's get back to this. Esquire is a shield bearer, armor bearer, attendant to a knight, right? Well, let's look up what a Templar is, shall we? Templar, a student of the law. Huh. So the Templars are controlling this, and the Knights are basically their attendants. They're the ones who carry out their orders, and the entire thing is the civil military of the Holy Roman Empire. Pretty wild, huh?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, these people are scumbags, dude. And what gives these people the right to think that they could just reduce everyone else to property and take control? It pisses me off to no end. And I know exactly who's behind it. And it irritates the living shit out of me every single day of my life that I think about it. I'm like, what makes these people think that they have the right to establish their own, like, essentially divine kingdom on earth and make themselves gods among men? What makes these scumbags think they have the right? Because they're exceptionally ruthless and greedy? Because they like to do horrible sacrificial things with, you know what I mean? Like, what gives you the right, dude? What makes you think that what makes you think you're entitled to this? Right? It irritates me, and it's never going to work. They're only going to get it so far, and then God's going to strike them down again. And I'm going to laugh. I'm going to laugh my ass off because these guys are so entitled and think that they're just the bee's knees, dude. They've got it all going on, and they're so much smarter than everyone else, and everyone else is just stakes on the table by choice and consent. That's how they look at us. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dirty bastards.
And that's the whole thing. It's not just the small hats, because everybody likes to focus on the small hat. It is them. Don't get me wrong. Like, it for sure is to a large degree, but it's not just them. It's the Holy Roman Empire, and they work together, and they historically always have, because they're the same people, and they're neither actually small hats or Christians. What they are is an ancient Babylonian death cult under the Talmud. If you look at, it's the same people that are around in Christ's time doing the same exact things that they're doing today. It was the money changers, right? Mm-hmm. It's part of the Babylonian money magic. It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who would take the original, because remember, man can't make law. They can only regulate property and commerce, or property under administration of infants and incompetents, and regulate commerce. So what did they do first before they used the ancient system of pledging? Or what did they try to do? Well, they tried to claim divine authority to interpret God's will, which is the same thing the Catholic Church does today. And that comes from ancient Babylon, where it was governed by the priests. And the priests were also the money lenders, because the temples minted and coined the currency. Okay. And it would always have the head or the face of whatever god of the temple that minted it. Right. So they controlled the money, and they made the law, and they claimed the divine authority to do so. And then they enslaved everyone through debt. Well, the Pharisees and the Sadducees did the same thing. Okay. So they took the Torah, and then they would say, okay, well, we know that it says this, but we're rabbis. Okay. So we're smarter than you, and we know what God really meant. So what he meant by don't work on the Sabbath was he meant these activities are forbidden. Okay. But these activities are acceptable. Nowhere in the Torah does it say what they were writing down, but they were able to give it the force of law as long as people bought into their interpretation that they actually had that authority to do these things. It's the same thing with the Catholic Church today. The Pope doesn't have any actual authority. His canons are not worth the paper that they're written, or the human skin that they're written on. No. Right? But if you believe that he's the vicar of Christ, then you're going to follow it because you think he has divine authority to actually interpret God's will, which he doesn't. Okay. And that's the same thing that the Pharisees and Sadducees were doing. Canons are the same thing that the scribes were doing and trying to legislate, right, interpretations of the Bible. The entire collection of the Talmud is nothing more than rabbinical interpretations of the Torah. And look how far away from the Torah that shit got. Right? All the way far away from it. Okay, talking about, I'm not even going to say it because we're on YouTube, but maybe we'll do a rumble about it and talk about some horrible shit that's in the Talmud.
Man.
It's bad. It's bad. And so these guys are the same people going all the way back to that time. And they're doing the same things. And so you can't just focus on one group or the other group. You have to realize that they're all the same group, and none of them are actually Hebrews. Okay, there's a reason the Pope wears the same small hat as the small hats. It's all the same people. In fact, the hierarchy and structure of the Catholic Church is almost identical to the Jewish hierarchy. And they all use the same occult ancient Babylonian symbolism, worshiping the dark god, right? Via the black cube or Saturn, right? So you got the Kaaba in Mecca, which is a big black cube, right? That they all go counterclockwise around it when they make a pilgrimage, and then they all chant and circle around it in this big dark ritual. The head rabbi in Israel has a big black cube right on his forehead when he's doing his whatever the hell he's hawking up a loogie or whatever he does, right? So he's got the black cube on his forehead. And then, of course, the cross is an unfolded cube with a symbol of death on it, the crucified Christ, making it black. You know, I find that funny. There's a comedian that said, you know, what do you think Jesus would think if he traveled, you know, if he was alive today, which, I mean, he is, but, you know, if he's seen everybody worshiping this ancient Roman torture device, right? That's what everybody's doing. You're worshiping an ancient Roman torture device.
I've always thought it's a form of idolatry, isn't it?
It could be construed to be such, yeah.
A graven image.
Absolutely. It for sure is. But yeah, so that's pretty much my my theory on the Tower of Babel.
What if his execution had taken place in 2005, right? Let's just say that. Would there be people walking around wearing hypodermic needles around their neck, you know, as a sign of solidarity? That's how they kill with lethal injection, you know?
Right. Potassium chloride would be considered sacred, right? Isn't that what they use? I think that's what they use.
Like that, yeah. Potassium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is.
So there's that's good. That would be the holy water. Would be
unless the law-abiding citizen gets a hold of it. Did you ever see that movie? You went in there and switch that shit out with battery acid and shit, and that guy was in there just like burning up on the table, going screaming and shit.
I did, yeah. He tortured. That was an awesome movie, by the way.
It was.
PayPal, or I'm not PayPal. PayPal is asking what's the dude's name that's speaking. Me? I'm Ryan. Yeah, or Burn the Corporate Fiction. This is my channel. My dad's Dave, Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind. He's got an awesome channel on YouTube as well. So if you're not familiar with him, he's got some good stuff. So definitely check him out.
If you're not familiar with us, you've been slacking, man. That's what's up.
Joyce says exactly right, Ryan. What rabbis and most Jews won't tell you is that they have a written Torah and an oral Torah. Exactly that. So when they say Torah, you must clarify and ask, are you speaking of the written or the oral? Exactly. One's just rabbinical interpretations, and the other one is obviously the Torah. So cannibal of blood and flesh, Corbett says. Joyce says when Catholics make the sign of the cross, it is a Templar cross where the vertical and horizontal are even. Christian sign of a cross would require lower touch on the body. Man, I never really thought about it like that. So Kriprick says keep doing the amazing work. Most people need to understand all this. Well, I appreciate that, Krip. I actually have, before we shut this down, I got a couple interesting videos I want to show you guys. Definitely not that one, because I don't think we can play that one on here. This, yes, I'm so glad I remembered to show you guys. This is wild, and I think all of us need to do this 100%. And you're gonna love this, Dad. I don't know if you've seen this yet. I'll send it to you too after we're done. But this is awesome. Watch. This guy makes a freaking cloud buster and then shows it working. Imagine if we did this every time they sprayed. If you just had whole neighborhoods set up these cloud busters by
yeah, man, it would be something else.
Invented by, have you ever seen one work before?
Not in real life, no.
Watch this.
Up there just grew. I have that in a bucket of water. This is what the whole Wilhelm Reich thing was about. Why he had that attached to water. Okay. Good cameraman stays on. Okay. I have 6 crystals here. That's not going to be in water now. I'm going to put this on a hyperlapse after. You can see for yourself. It's not going to go in there.
So he's got 6 crystals. He's got 6 crystals.
Pointed right at that cloud, right? And I'm grounding this pipe off in the ground. I'm going to put a hyperlapse on there. You're going to watch that cloud disappear. Okay? You see?
Watch this. This is epic. Look at that. It's freaking awesome, isn't it?
Wonder how long that was without it being on fast like that.
It didn't really seem like it was that long because you've seen how quick that guy was walking. So if you watch the one guy walking, right? Okay. Watch the one guy walking. Like you see people walking, so it's pretty quick, but I'd say within probably like an hour and a half. Yeah, because he's not walking that fast. Yeah, that didn't take long. No. That didn't take long. That's wild, isn't it? Dude, I recommend we all start doing that. You know what what are they going to do about it? Oh, quit destroying our clouds. What are they going to say? Right? We're trying to spray shit up here. Yeah.
Copper pipe's illegal. Watch.
Right. Copper illegal. That would be what they did. And no, but he put quartz crystals in it, obviously, because quartz amplifies frequency. It doesn't have any inherent nature of its own. It's neutral, but quartz will amplify whatever frequency is passed through it. So it was amplifying the frequency of that copper and whatever the hell else he did. And he just destroyed that freaking cloud. That was sweet. So now here's this other one. I wanted to see what your opinion on this was. I think it's probably bullshit, but I also know that the only, like, the real outer space, I think, aside from being your consciousness, would be under the ocean, right? So, and PayPal says cloud busting versus clown seeding. We got Andrew B in the house too. He says, I've heard some people say that boiling vinegar outdoors will help eliminate chemtrails. I've heard that also, actually, but I just don't know. But then after watching that, like, you wouldn't think that would work, and that shit did work. So I don't know. It's, I mean, it appeared to work. We would have to empirically try it ourselves in real life to make sure there's no kind of trickery going on, because we have to maintain that level of skepticism. But imagine having entire neighborhoods set those up in their backyards when they're spraying, you know, trying to engineer something or infect everybody with parasites or whatever they're trying to do that particular day because they need whatever pretext, and just destroy their project, make them waste probably tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even more, right? Just in trying to do it, just destroy it, and then have a nice sunny day in your neighborhood. Everywhere else, it's all overcast and shit, but you guys are just chilling. All right, check this out. I'm not sure what to think about this. Not really sure if it's true or not, but let's check it out.
That they said was fake, but these are real footage and real scientists that got this deep down in the ocean. This documentary had so much information they had to come back and say it was fake.
We're with former NOAA biologist Dr. Paul Robertson and joined by Dr. Torsten Smith. He was the lead geologist.
There it says AI generated at the bottom, so I guess that answers the question. I don't know, though. Basically, they
on a
claim to
submarine
have
crew that
seen.
recorded on March 6th of this year the astonishing footage we just watched, and I'd like to start.
Yeah, I'd say it looks fake, honestly. Not sure. But there was one more video I wanted to show you guys. Hold on. Oh, this right here. So you're talking about Tartaria, or not Tartaria. You didn't talk about that, but you're talking about like the old world, right? So whatever you want to call it. Check this out. This is actually, this guy's got the receipts to prove it.
I'll show you guys again. This is for a boat. What do you watch?
Look at that. Those are little mooring hooks.
Right?
Yeah.
The same
Where's that at?
Here. This is all water underneath these streets before they paved over it.
Hold on, I think he says.
Right here. This whole thing was where they docked boats right on this temple.
Look at that.
You got two cleats back to back on the side of this temple. There's water would run underneath it. I showed the canals in Cahos today. What do you think's under this city? There was all water in here first. This is in Cahos. See how the whole city's full of water? The canals ran into this city. They covered these streets up in Cahos the same way they covered these ones up. Right
Cahos?
Just like that. We were like Venice. Yeah, that's what I was saying. This whole place was like Italy. And on all these tunnels they talk about underneath the street, those are the old canal systems.
It's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
How would they cover over the canals like that with roads? But this is what I was talking about with us being a dipolar battery, right?
115 meters and shows up and
one big energy.
So
that's all this thing is one big energy generator. We have free energy everywhere. My dad knows it. I know it. Tesla knew it. The governments know it. The big corporations know it. And anybody who attempts to bring this knowledge to the forefront gets done. Dead, right? Check out what this guy does, though.
Out this video where a man attaches a copper wire and flies a drone up to about 115 meters and shows off the Aether in action.
All right, I'm gonna stop at 115 and hold steady.
You seen this
All
one?
right.
Yeah.
It didn't blow up yet. Oh, by the way, meet the aerial film crew. I just thought this was a cool shot. Oh, yeah, I'm getting shocked right now. This time I just used the electroscope as a quick voltage check.
Look at that.
Now that's a few thousand volts right there. All right, let's see if there's enough current to make this Franklin bell work. Oh, dude! Freaking working, buddy! Yeah.
See,
it's a really cool process.
So what that shows me is exactly like what I think, and I think you've said something to the effect as well, is that the positive and negative charges are the composition of the Aether, right? So if you can take the positive and negative charges and then ground them, right? And the higher up you go, the more the electromagnetic activity is, right? Like the greater the magnetic activity is. So if you can take something and do like he did and connect something conductive up to the Aether, high, he said it was like 115 feet in the air, and then ground it to complete the circuit, this happens.
Yes. The aerial wire places a positive charge on this can, which then influences the foil ball to deliver electrons from the grounded can, which is directly connected to Earth. The clouds finally opened up, so I connected up the corona motor. Like before, one side was connected to ground, while the other was attached to the aerial wire. And after just a few seconds, hey, she's spinning.
See, he just grounded it. That's all he did.
This is just remarkable. It never really spun that fast, but I just sat and enjoyed the miracle. I mean, I quite literally was siphoning energy straight from the atmosphere. This motor was operating off of several kilovolts, which you could actually hear if you stopped the motor and brought your finger near the aerial wire. That's the sound of coronal discharge.
They absolutely had Aether energy technology, dude. There's no question that the old world, the history that has been buried, the reason why you have those ground level windows, this actually lends a lot more credit to, especially the structures of the buildings with the big spires and the sacred geometry and the windows, like chambers for frequency, right? Look at this. If you can just harness electricity directly from the Aether just by grounding it, why in the hell do we pay power companies.
Right.
Right? Like
they're probably getting it that way anyway.
Exactly there. Why wouldn't they? If they could get it for free and then still charge you? Yeah. What? But that's some wild shit right there. I never seen it actually work like that. So, okay. Last thing I want to show you guys is listen to this. Is an epic PSA, public service announcement. Nobody's talking about it. This guy, I actually piggyback a lot of my shorts onto his stuff. He has some good content, and so he comments on my stuff, but he's a pretty solid dude. He's got like 27,000 followers or whatever. And but this PSA, public service announcement in Allentown, PA, this lady lets them have it, and this is awesome.
Process. And then state law would trump the charter.
My name is Jessica. I'm a civil rights advocate and litigator from Washington, D.C. I'm here to provide public notice, and this is in accordance with USCS Rules of Civil Procedure as well as Rule 17 and Rule 20 of the United States Supreme Court. The Constitution for the United States is the overarching requirements that every state must follow. I don't think anyone here would disagree with that. States are not able to enact their own alternative legislation and substitute it for the guarantees of the Constitution. That would mean that your state laws are more powerful than the Constitution. That is unlawful. Clause 1 of Amendment 5 states that no person should be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment by a grand jury. However, the state of Pennsylvania has enacted its own alternative legislation that substitutes your prosecuting attorneys and your police officers to charge by way of information as opposed to indictment. That is unlawful. An emolument violation is when you pay a public official to break the law. There are two areas of the Constitution that reinforces this. The first is Article 1, Section 10, and that's where it states that no state shall create any law that shall impair the obligation of contract. So police officers, your prosecutors, your judges, they're all under a contract. That's a contract you perform based upon the oath or affirmation that they took to support and defend the Constitution. The contract perimeters are defined within the Constitution. So when a state enacts a law and then directs their agents to disobey that law, that is in fact a violation of Article 1, Section 10. The 14th Amendment is the other place that you'll find this reinforcement of the issue, and that's where it states that no state shall create.
So I have to say that she's taken a modern lawyer's approach, because there's a couple things that she already said that were wrong. One is state law does trump the Constitution. In fact, I have ex parte nulls? Well, anyways, the one that I just showed you guys earlier, the United States v. Anthony, this one here. Hold on. I didn't catch all that before about the 14th Amendment, so I was slipping a little bit there, but she does chew them out and it's pretty good. But I can see why they didn't really care that she said this stuff, because this right here, the 14th Amendment defines and declares who shall be citizens of the United States and protects only such rights as are rights belonging to persons as citizens of the United States and not rights belonging to persons of the state. And then I think there's another one that is it Maxwell v. Dow? Basically what they say is that, there you go. The privileges and immunities of the citizens of the United States do not necessarily include all the rights protected by the First Amendments to the federal Constitution. What? Against the powers of federal government. So wait a minute, what? Hold on, let's reread that. The privileges and immunities of the citizens of the United States do not necessarily include all the rights protected by the first 8 amendments to the federal Constitution. Nope. That's why the 14th Amendment is what I like to call the contractual black hole. So as soon as she brought up 14th Amendment, I immediately apologize for showing you guys this. You should never, ever even acknowledge that that amendment applies to you, because, but let's see where she goes with it. Oh, God, that's awful. No, it's not. No, it's not. I just showed you a court case that contradicts that. They are not.
Randy, stop.
Oh, you guys probably can't hear this shit, can you? She just said, because I went over here to this one without going to the tab. But anyway, she just said that the privileges and immunities clause of the 14th Amendment at least includes the privileges and immunities guaranteed by the first 10 amendments, which we literally just read is not the case. So, Yeah, never mind. Don't listen to this chick. I mean, she does chew them out, but that's obviously some controlled opposition or something there. Oh, this broad though. This broad right here. Let me show you this, and then we're going to shut this down here shortly. But this is wild. This is Bill Gates' new wife, the chick that is after his own heart for sure with the shit she's talking about. Listen to this.
His new wife, his new woman.
Our nation.
Yeah.
And did we?
Oops, hold on.
That's a dude, man.
Well, that's what I said. That's why Bill Gates would be all about her. Check this out.
In our nation and globally. And did we solve that? Like, did we actually manage to vaccinate everyone in the world? No. So highlighting water as a global commons and what it means to work together and see it both out of that kind of global commons perspective, but also the self-interest perspective, because it does have that parallel. It's not only important, but it's also important because we haven't managed to solve those problems which had similar attributes. And water is something that people understand. You know, climate change is a bit abstract. Some people understand it really well. Some understand it a bit. Some just don't understand it. Water, every kid knows how important it is to have water. When you're playing football and you're thirsty, you need water.
You hear this crazy
there's
broad?
Also something about really getting citizen engagement around this and really, in some ways, experimenting with this notion of the common good. Can we actually deliver that we have failed miserably?
And what she means by common good is communism, right? Where everybody comes under the corporate state for the common good, and the corporate state can reallocate your property and tell you what to do for the common good. It's communism. It's absolute feudalism. She just said that our jab campaign failed and nobody's really going for climate change. So now the new water crisis is sure to get people on board because everybody can relate to not having water. You know, you can't really convince people to go get experimental medical treatments, right? Not to the degree we wanted. And you know, the science of climate change is just too far above the average person's head. But when we take away your water, oh boy, are you going to notice that? Right?
Yeah.
That's what she just said, dude. Like, wild. So Ryan McVeigh had said, Roger says that's a linebacker, not just a dude. You're not kidding, dude. She's got a strong ass jaw. Pretty sure that's like an Adam's apple in there, too. But so Ryan McVeigh says that doesn't make the Constitution better. No, the Constitution's not good at all. The Constitution is a subversive document. That's why they were able to do the things that they're able to do with Article 1, Section 8, the Commerce Clause, allowing Congress to basically expand jurisdiction within the states using the excuse of international commerce or interstate commerce. And then secondly, the Article 4, Section 3 that allows Congress to make all needful rules regarding the property of the United States within the states. And then the 14th Amendment, which makes everyone property of the state or of the federal government within the states. So no, don't ever think anybody who says they're a constitutionalist doesn't know history and doesn't know what the Constitution is. PayPal says, isn't Gates somehow connected to turning urine from sewage into water or something weird? Like, no, it's even better. It's feces. It's feces. Have you ever seen that, Dad?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. He takes human shit.
They're supposedly doing that with the urine to water up on the space station.
Yeah, right. Oh, that was funny. That video you showed where he said, nope, that's just piss. It's just piss. It tastes like straight piss. Yeah, that should show that. That's hilarious. You got to watch that one. But yeah, it's definitely poop. He basically presses the moisture out of poop and then filters it and then says, here, you got some clean drinking water. And then he takes a drink of the poop water. So that's pretty psychotic, actually. Let's see. Oh, here you go. Why he's pulling that up, unless you got it handy.
I got it.
All right. Shoot.
Yeah.
He says, oh, great feces water. Yeah. You know,
That's
for the new upcoming
food out of it. I saw a thing where they're talking about making their food out of poop up there.
Yes. Steaks, taking all the undigested like nutrients that are in your poop and then making steaks out of it. Yeah, that's a great idea. These people are evil as shit. Here.
Stew with corn. That's what you'll have.
It'd be flavored water, shit flavored water. Yeah.
test one, sample one. It's the first water we've got out of the machine. This will allow astronauts to recycle their urine and sweat into beautiful, clean, clear drinking water. First sample, transparency, subpar. Oh, that's just piss. That's just straight up piss. Smell, urine, and damn it! Oh, that's piss. I don't know why I have to drink it. It's piss. It's yellow. That's piss all the way down to the bottom. Results have not been promising. Edison, it took him like thousands of tries to find the right filament for a light bulb. And maybe we're being idiots, or maybe we're... it's piss! Let's just see who drinks it. I'm not going to drink it. I'd say here, I'll fucking drink it. You drink it! Do we have a machine? Or are we just pissing into this bottle? That would go great with a cheeseburger if you like drinking piss with your cheeseburger. Hey, that's not bad. Like a glass of water that a friend pissed a little bit into. We made water! Somebody give me a glass of piss. I want to celebrate.
He said straight up piss. I'm not drinking that.
That was awesome. Yeah. PayPal says feces water for the common good. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Cryptrick says searching Amazon right now for a poop press.
That's what we need.
You want to see Bill Gates eat some or drink some turd water? Let me see if I can find Bill Gates poop machine real quick. Let's see here. Let's Bill Gates poop water. We're going to see if we can pull this one up for those who may be skeptical. There's a picture of it. We just got, there's another picture of it. Now we just got to find the damn video. The hell's the video at? Yeah, there's tons of pictures of him drinking it, but it's pretty damn gross. All right, let's go to media. See, I don't much care for searching X on a computer because it doesn't really bring things up quite as well. All right. Yeah, I don't know if you have any better luck, but you must not want this out there too bad, huh? Oh, yeah, that's a GIF, right?
What's that?
No, so I'm looking through. I'll show you guys what I'm looking through. I'm trying to find Bill Gates drinking the poop water, but there's just pictures of it.
I got a couple of links back in the private chat there that I sent you to. It's one of them's a PDF, and the other one is a pretty funny little video. Some black guys went to a Chinese restaurant and they said, no blacks.
Oh, the Heart of Blackstone. So this is like a summary of Blackstone.
Yeah.
Oh, this is cool. Heck yeah. This might be a good resource to show people. I recommend everybody just listen to the audiobook. For starters, the actual full book, but then, the Blackstone new waterless toilet. Look, so you got pictures of him drinking the poop, but there it is.
He likes it. Take a big old bite. That's what he wants.
Okay, I think we found it on the on YouTube. It's not on X, so let me stop this real quick and I'll share it with you guys. You can see Bill Gates drink poop water. It's called an Janicki Omniprocessor, whatever that. All right, let's check it out. And it's from Bill Gates himself right here. This is his YouTube channel. I didn't even know Bill Gates had a YouTube channel, but okay.
Over 2.5 billion people have no access to safe sanitation. We asked brilliant engineers to help us solve this problem. And one of those engineers actually has proposed a solution where the waste is valuable.
The Omniprocessor turns sewer sludge, which is kind of nasty, into clean drinking water, electricity, and ash that is pathogen-free. This is where the sludge enters the machine. It goes up this conveyor belt. It's fed into these large tubes we call the dryer. That's where we boil the sludge. And in the boiling process, we separate the water vapor from the solids. The solids are now dry, and we can feed them into the fire. Once we have this very hot fire, we can make high pressure, high temperature steam. And we take that steam and we send it to a steam engine. And the
You know it's hot enough when the corn pops.
Makes electricity that we use for the processor, and also excess electricity that can be delivered back to the community. The water vapor that's created in the boiling process is run through a cleaning system until we have the cleanest, purest water you can possibly imagine.
The purest water.
The sanitation system as we know it in the developed world cannot work in developing countries. So what we need in developing countries is a very simple system.
The entrepreneur that owns this processor will get paid for the input, the sludge. And that same entrepreneur will get paid for the outputs, the electricity, the water, and the ash.
I am very impressed with this solution we're seeing here. It generates electricity, it generates clean water.
It will grow to every corner of the earth that needs it because it makes money.
Yep, there you go. He's going to drink it. Took a very He took a very, very sparing sip of that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Bottoms up there, twig boy. Let's see you take it. Let's go.
Yeah, he took a very sparing sample of that. So Peg's Place says, what's wrong with desalination plants? Well, the problem is, Peg, it's not feces. So you're not doing the satanic ritual of making people drink their own feces, right? So you got to add the brownie points from Satan, right? Otherwise you're not the oligarch you should be. So
yeah,
but yeah, that was absolutely disgusting.
Don't get rid of that glass of delicious piss water too soon there. I'm about to squeeze out a fucking corn dog for you there, Bill. You need something to wash that down with.
Right. How's that work though? Hey, don't bury that shit. You throw it in the Omni processor, right? Because we need some water. So make sure all the poop goes in the Omni processor.
That's it. You get that thing going.
Oh,
It's like an easy bake oven and a toilet all made in one.
Do you remember when I told you about Ohio and the whole thing that was happening? Like when I was doing that research into Duffy and how everything like links back to Ohio with Candace Owens, with like controlling all the energy, all that stuff. Well, I'm going to send you this link. I don't know if I can show this. Let me watch it for a second and see how bad it is. Okay. I think we can because he doesn't actually say anything. All right, let's show it. Whatever. We're going to risk it here. We're going to roll the dice. Make sure you guys can see this stuff. It's called Ohio Gate. This has been going around. And I'm telling you, I found a lot of links to Ohio. And then they came out with that Netflix special, The Devil's in Ohio, right? Devil in Ohio, which was a weird-ass show.
Hey, Ohio, you guys know this dude? What about this dude? Surely you know the Wexner Medical Center, right? Wexner was Epstein's. And Wexner's attorney is also your governor's attorney. Read them and weep. So if you live in Ohio, just so you know, your governor is a sex trafficker.
Whoops. Yeah, we probably don't want to. Allegedly, of course. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. I hadn't watched that full thing yet, but he could be. I mean, here's the thing is that Ohio controls so the University of Ohio has its fingers in all of the sectors of the energy industry. They control then not only that, but they're in with like NASA, SpaceX, rocket propulsion, and all of this comes out of the University of Ohio. And then, of course, they've got ties like Duffy went to the University of Ohio. J.D. Vance went to the University of Ohio. Vivek Ramaswamy went to the University of Ohio. There's a lot of Pilgrim Society activity in the University of Ohio. And yet, look into that, too, because Duffy went there. And I think that probably he has some ties. So Ohio seems to be like a recruiting ground for these controlled opposition people or political puppets and all that good stuff. And yeah, I would like other people to do some research into Ohio, because it's tough. You can only find circumstantial evidence on this, obviously just associations and connections and all linking back to the University of Ohio. But where there's smoke, there's fire, is what I always say about Will Duffy and his crew. And I know what you say about Will Duffy and his crew, you know, is like he's disingenuous, he's a scam artist, he's got all these financial crimes against him and all that stuff. And but the whole crew in general is almost like a intelligence asset, you know, not that they'd be intelligence themselves because they're not smart enough or important enough, but like they're an asset, like disinformation assets that are deployed. You know what I mean? And I seen that stuff. What was that you were showing the other night on your show about Duffy? The he's all charity.
The charity. It might be a different charity because the one was called Exodus and the other one is called Exodus with an I. But I can't help but feel like they're related.
Well, yeah, obviously.
One was in Ohio, one or Utah. The other one was in Colorado. I mean, come on.
That's about to be like Ohio. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I had Ohio on the brain. Just looking here, there was a 7.5 magnitude earthquake down at Drake's Passage between South America and Antarctica just a little while ago.
Damn. Wait, have you? So I don't know why this reminded me. Well, actually, because of like Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon and stuff like that. First, let me see what this X post you sent to me is. What is this here?
That's that one at the Chinese restaurant. These black guys went to go eat in this Chinese restaurant. And this woman says, no black people.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. I wonder if we can show that on here.
I don't know why not, man. We're not the one that's excluding the blacks out.
I didn't say it.
It's a Chinese woman. She don't say, the forbidden N-word.
I said no. Huh? Let me say no to you. I say no.
That's awful.
No. I say no. No black. No black. No black. What? Say like I say good. Let's go ahead.
That poor chick that probably doesn't even understand what the hell he's saying. Yeah. She's probably like, you're not wearing a suit and tie or something.
Well, it don't look like they even open, man.
Where's the menu? Menu?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't look like they're open.
They're not open. They're not even open yet. That's why she said no.
Yeah, that's
black. He said no black, and she don't know. You might as well said kangaroo fart. She doesn't know the difference.
Well, you could see that on her face. She's just like shaking her head like, no, you can't go in here. It doesn't matter what you're saying.
Are we allowed to eat here?
Where are you going to eat, bro? There's not even open tables. Why wouldn't this is just race baiting bullshit?
Yeah, it is.
Not surprising. Race baiting bullshit.
A lot of that. They're trying that shit all over the place.
Well, yeah, of course they are. That was funny though, but definitely race baiting horse shit. So, what was it that I was weird? Hold on. It was, let's see, I think there was one more thing. If I remember correctly. Yeah, I can't show that. That's what sucks. We need to do like a Rumble exclusive one of these nights. Because like 90% of what I save on X cannot be shown. Well, we can probably show this real quick. Watch this. It's ridiculous. This is almost as bad as, have you seen the I sent you the Sparkle Creed before, haven't I?
I don't know.
You know, the Sparkle Creed?
Oh, okay, yeah. That's fucking crazy.
No, this isn't the Sparkle Creed, but this is close. Then I'm going to look up the Sparkle Creed because people need to see exactly how ridiculous these churches are getting. Right? They're not even churches anymore. Look at this.
That is why I take my 11-year-old boy to drag shows in the summer with my friend and fellow church leader, Kate, and her 11-year-old boy. I want him to know that there is no wrong way to have a body, especially if you're a man, that bodies can be celebrated and played with, I want him to know that all bodies can shapeshift and be adorned with makeup and glitter. All bodies.
Oh my God.
I want him to know that there is no wrong way to live in his body, as long as his body is not hurting other bodies. Amen? I especially want him to know this if he turns out to be a heterosexual, able-bodied, and cisgendered man. I want to raise a boy who knows that he doesn't get to tell other people how to live in a body. That is why I take my 11-year-old.
First of all, we're just going to start with the fact that well, we're not even going to get into that, actually. What the hell was that? This is a church. I'm going to go ahead.
In Enoch, one of the indictments against the fallen was for teaching women witchcraft and using makeup. Okay, and the glitter and makeup, because it's a form of deception.
Yeah, wasn't that some Yaza?
Yeah, I believe so. And there it is. I want to teach my son. Here's something I want to know. How come these freakazoids ain't never wanting to go to a rest home and read stories to the old people and shit? How come they ain't want to go do that? It's always they want to get around the kids. What the fuck is that?
Why would you take your 11-year-old to a drag show, especially if you're supposedly a pastor, which is a female, but like, so you're like, I take my child to a drag show because it's tolerant. Well, what happens at a drag show? Right? Yeah. So clearly these people skipped over Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible. They just choose not to read those stories, right? What happened when the strangers showed up and all that good stuff. So you're going to take your kids to go watch sexually provocatively dressed men pretending to be women dance around. But so that's not even the worst, though, that these people do. You guys got to see this. If you have not ever seen the Sparkle Creed, oh my goodness, are you in for a treat? Oh yeah, there it is. Oh, this is just amazing. It's just amazing. Yeah, I showed you and Leanne the shit when you guys came up here and visited. Yeah, this is wild, dude. This is wild.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and let us confess our faith today in the words of the Sparkle Creed. I believe in the non-binary God, whose pronouns are plural. I believe in Jesus Christ, their child, who wore a fabulous tunic and had 2 dads.
Fabulous.
Saw everyone as a sibling child of God. I believe in the rainbow spirit, who shatters our image of one white light and refracts it into a rainbow of gorgeous diversity.
Oh my God.
I believe in the church of everyday saints, as numerous, creative, and resilient as patches on the AIDS quilt, whose feet are grounded in mud and whose eyes gaze at the stars in wonder. I believe in the calling to each of us that love is love is love. So, beloved, let us love. I believe, glorious God, help my unbelief. Amen.
Wow. Right. We believe in the one non-binary God, in Jesus, who had a fabulous tunic. Rainbow tunic, did she say?
Fabulous. It was fabulous.
It was a fabulous rainbow tunic.
I think he's thinking of Joseph's coat.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yes. But what the hell was that?
I don't know, man.
And I'm pretty sure that's Episcopalian, but yeah. It's like, so there's just so much to unpack there, right? Like, first of all, I don't know what's worse. The fact that she has everybody stand and recite it, or the fact that they were able to, right? That means this whole congregation memorized that just brain rot that came out of her mouth. And it was brain rot. That was,
there's something wrong with her, man.
There's a lot of stuff wrong going on there, yeah.
Where does it say in the Bible that he had a fabulous tunic?
Yeah, I believe that was Pillow Biters 12:6, probably, I think. Yeah, the book of Pillow Biters, I think. Yeah, that was terrible. But I bet you cannot even believe that exists. It's actually pretty old, but it does exist. And that's what the churches are now coming to. That's your diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's your ESG scores coming to life. See, the problem with churches is the 5013C status. Okay. That tax exempt status.
Golden handcuffs.
It's golden handcuffs. And so they have to maintain compliance with all the government policies and regulations. And they recite, what is it, Romans 13:1. Well, for authorities are established on earth.
Well, and they follow that Schofield Bible bullshit too.
Of course they do. Yeah. Well, you know that they're the chosen people. Did I show you that Talmud? Hold on, I gotta find this. This will be the final video, I promise. But I gotta find this one real quick for you guys. I showed you. I think I showed you the Talmud. Charlie Kirk getting stumped on the Talmud.
Yeah.
That was fantastic, and I definitely got to find it.
I don't know what this fucking undying sucking up to Israel is, man. Surely these people have got more brains than that to know that just because some country calls itself something. I mean, you got to be aware that these people are not from there in the first damn place. You know, Milikowski, come on, man.
Well, yeah, Benjamin Milikowski. Well, they're all like Polish or Ukrainian or some sort of Eastern European people that have no actual claim to the place that they're trying to take over. Well, here you go. How about this one? This will be a pretty good one to show. This isn't the Charlie Kirk one, but this one actually kind of emphasizes the point. And I do have to clarify, though, it's not just them. Okay. Well, it's not just them. This group divides itself into different factions so that they can have the illusion of being separate, but they're not Hebrews or Israelites. They're not Christians. They're not any of these things. They are this ancient Babylonian cult of death, basically, of Baal worship or Moloch worship. That's what they are. And they, you can call them Zios, you can call them the Holy Roman Empire, you can call them the small hats, whatever you want to call them, but they're not Semitic, and they're not who they say they are. So they're imposters, and they go way, way back. The ancient Canaanites and Phoenicians, the merchants. So merchants, the ones who speak the spells from the sea. Right. All right.
Just in a far off land is going to come and go after the Western allies. The Westerners are fighting and they're going back and forth. And then this far off country comes and Edom falls to them. They lose. The Western countries lose this war. Yeah.
It's like they lost in Vietnam.
No, very much not like that. Because it's all their armies, everybody, their whole sovereignty, their sovereignty is going to be gone. They will no longer be a superpower. God's going to come and save these China, whoever it is, and wipe out the Christian countries. Why? Because they destroyed the Second Temple. Meaning, while you were all rooting for the West this whole time, you forgot about the fact that they have major debt to pay. And that is, they destroyed the base of Mignos.
And China never touched the base of Mignos.
Right, they don't even know what it is. And not only because they destroyed base of Mignos, you ready for this? Think about the Holocaust now and all the pogroms and all the what were those called, crusades, wiping out whole cities of Jews. The Hitzaru, the Israel, the Gullus, and they caused pain to the Jewish people in their exile. Meaning they persecuted. Hitzaru persecuted. Meaning they're going to get killed in the end because God is going to go on the side of probably China, wipe out the whole West. Why? Because of the destruction of the Second Temple, which is still a debt they never paid, and because of the persecution. All that persecution the Jews have gone through. It's still a bill. It's still a bill that has to get paid by the West. There's a pasuk that says that there's going to be a slaughtering for God. The Basra, Basra is a capital of part of Rome, like a big city of Rome, and this is going to be God's avenging. This is going to be God's korban, God's sacrifice or slaughter.
Is Basra a city in Iraq?
Yeah, also, but here it says Shivaroini. God comes at the aid of China and wipes out all the Western countries. America, everyone's going. Just in a far.
Oops. So yeah, Jackie asked, so what's their name? Well, we got Hempcrete Bear showed up. Good to see you, man. And Jackie, of course, good to see you. But Jackie says, what are they called? Do they have a name? I have many names. Most of them are slanderous from me or my dad. But I guess officially you could call them the Canaanites. You could call them the Babylonian, like the ancient Babylonian death cult of Nimrod, right? Because Nimrod are the Luciferians. I mean, that's the key to their powers. They don't actually coalesce into a group with a name. So you don't have one target to focus on. You have to do a lot of research to figure out that these like apparently separate groups, right? Supposedly separate groups are actually all the same people working towards the same end of usurping divine jurisdiction. So as far as an actual technical name, no, they don't have one, but various people that do research in this, such as myself, my dad, Bill Cooper had a name for him. Jordan Maxwell had a name for him. These people are, I'd say they're like the cult of Baal, if you want, right? Like they are the ones who know the knowledge of good and evil and use it to essentially manipulate society. I think they're stuck here, personally. I do. I think they're stuck here. And I think that's why they're trying to create like a golden age of Saturn on Earth, but because there's nowhere they can go. Oh yeah, good old Stephen Colbert. You seen this one? Oh, we can't play this because it's got the song "Somebody That You Used to Know."
Yeah, that's been around quite a while.
Yeah, as look at him. Okay, we're gonna play the song, but that's definitely Stephen Colbert, dude. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Sick fucker. Anyway, I'm trying to find this where Charlie Kirk gets just thrashed on a college campus, and it's way back. I saved it a while ago. Yeah, that's true. We'll defeat America by using the weakness of the liberal leaders, but the Republicans are equally as weak and ineffective. So, I wonder if old Trump seen that last little small hat guy talking about how China is going to be allowed to wipe us out.
We're going to wipe ourselves out.
Well, if we keep sucking a certain Middle Eastern country's cock, then yeah, probably it's true.
Well, the people are voicing. People are noticing. Way too many people noticing.
They're definitely
assholes are getting booed off stage when they start talking about Israel and shit. They're, constituents are like, take a fucking hike.
That is actually, I'm very impressed with the people, especially even MAGA people to a certain extent. Not all of them, because a lot of them are retards. But
oh yeah, most of them. I mean, Jesus, Donald Trump, they'd get down and suck him off if he asked them to. That ain't no exaggeration either.
Here it is. But a lot of MAGA people are like, especially in the podcasting sphere and what would be considered like somewhat mainstream, even like Steven Crowder, for instance, or which he's kind of a tool. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think he's funny, so I watch his show. Like they have funny jokes and shit in there. They're comedians, but like he definitely is just blatantly a statist, and I disagree with that. However, they do point out like AIPAC should register as foreign agents. They shouldn't influence our elections, and we don't think you should give any of our money to Israel. Like that's a foreign country. It doesn't matter if they're Jewish or what they were, right? It does not make a difference. That is a foreign state. Do not give our money and resources to a foreign state, especially for no reason at all. Period. But all right, let's check this out. I did find it. There we go.
713 refers to Jesus being a fornicator. Getting 56 refers to Jesus burning in hell. Shabbat 104b says that Mary was a Baba Messia 24a reads that if a Jew finds an object that a Gentile goy has lost, does not have to return it. Yebamath.
That was not boy, that was goy. By the way, Goy, Goyim, which is like cattle, but worse. It's almost like tainted flesh or like unclean. That's what it is. And if you're curious as to what he's reciting, this would be the Talmud. So, yeah, just so you're clear that Jesus is boiling in excrement according to the Talmud. So, okay.
98a says all children of Goyim are animals. Tuspoth Jebemiah 84b says if you eat with a goy, it is the same as eating with a dog. Baba Messia 114b says Gentiles, goys, are not humans, they are beasts.
All of which are
And then-
legitimate verses. All of which are legitimate verses. But here's my opinion. We'll just disagree. I believe that Paul said in the New Testament, we must bless the Jews. We must bless the Jews.
4713.
So look, I mean, I just want to watch this one more time because watch how uncomfortable this guy is, right? Look at him. He's like somebody, like he was allergic to bees and a bee just stung him in the neck. Yeah, but he can't take it. And then finally he has to stop the guy and go, yeah, okay, those are all legitimate verses. But Paul says, who was a Jew and a Roman, right, who I believe was a usurper, but I know a lot of my subs disagree with me. That's fine. You guys, we're all entitled to our opinion. From what I see in the New Testament, this guy never even met Jesus, didn't know him personally, and was a persecutor of Christians while he was alive. And then after he died, all of a sudden he's struck blind on the road to Damascus and has an epiphany that, he's supposed to, bring the word to all the Gentiles and establish churches. And sounds to me like Rome was doing a little damage control with their Roman agent, Paul, but that's just my personal opinion. Anyway, he says, Paul says, bless those, you must bless the Jews. God bless those who bless the Jews, even though the Jews say that his son is boiling in excrement. But look at how uncomfortable these guys are. This guy is. Watch.
Refers to Jesus being a fornicator. Getting 56 refers to Jesus burning in hell. Shabbat 104b says that Mary was a Baba Messia 24a reads that if a Jew finds an object that a Gentile goy has lost, does not have to return it. Yebamoth 98a says all children of Goyim are animals.
The look on his face is like, I'm fucked. There's no twisting this one around. To get out of this and have a gotcha moment to go viral on YouTube and Facebook and shit, that's over with. Look at me. He's like, how the hell am I gonna save this one? Well, you're not true.
How are you gonna get out of that?
Right. How are you gonna get out of that? You're not going to, because it's the truth. And when you're confronted with the truth, there's actually nothing you can do because you're a slimy little weasel.
Tuspoth Jebemiah 84b says if you eat with a goy, it is the same as eating with a dog. Baba Messia 114b says Gentiles, goys, are not humans, they are beasts.
All of which are legitimate verses. All of which
they said eating with one of us is like eating with a dog. Our children are beasts. They're animals, right? That's fantastic. Well, we should keep sending them billions of dollars, I say, right? Why not? Most of them fuckers over there don't even work or anything. They just live off welfare.
Yeah.
Guess who pays for that?
Us.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we have a really fantastic arrangement with them, by the way. But we send them, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And we give them weapons, ammunition, all sorts of other resources, preferred trade deals. Right. And what do they give us in return? Permission to do it. That's it, right?
They let us.
Yeah, well, it's kind of them. How many other countries would let you do something like that? You got to think about it like that, right? How generous of them. But it's wild. Anyway,
it is antiseptic.
We don't want to be antiseptic here, YouTube. We are in full support of the Jews and the Talmud here on Burn the Corporate Fiction. We love them, and we think that they're just
Hebrews and Shebrews, go Holocaust.
Yeah, there you go. They're just productive and just all around positive and lovely people, you know, who really just are misunderstood. That's why they were kicked out of 109 countries over 1,000 times. It was probably those other countries, now that I think about it, you know.
Can I get a genocide?
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, it's approaching what, 12:30. So
yeah.
Or no, it's approaching 12:40 actually.
Oh my God,
so
what a fat cop.
You got a fat cop?
Yeah, you want to see it real quick? Hold on a second.
Yeah, why not?
I don't know what's up with this guy. Hang on, let me make it big. Take the sound on. Here you go.
JJM Creep Bear says, "Can I get a wooden door?" Hey, you know, those are airtight, man. All right,
They
don't
are.
question it. Yeah, fuck yeah, they are.
Put the gun down! Put the gun down!
Oh, wow.
Come around here. Sam, put the gun down! Put the gun down!
Jesus.
Is he hit? Like, not only is he a shitty shot.
Sam, put the gun down! Put the gun down!
He's a damn easy target.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of
if that guy shooting back missed him, he needs to be shot. He does.
Well, there's a lot of mass, obviously, to hit. It's a big target. Secondly, he's a very shitty shot that was essentially point blank, and the dude still drove away.
I think no, it says that the traffic stop leaves one dead and the officer wounded.
Oh, so the guy drove off and passed away. Okay, well, either way, though, that officer had a lot of padding. He didn't even seem too affected by he like knelt there for a second. He's like, I'm hit. You know what I mean? Fortunately, my blubber stopped it on its way.
He's probably wearing a vest. He's probably wearing a vest.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he was wearing several, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he had the padding, I guarantee it, because even with a vest, that shit'll hurt. But maybe he got hit with something small, you know?
Right. And again, that's their entire job is to escalate every encounter with the public into an arrest. That's what it is. That's what they're taught. You want to look for any reason you can to get the maximum attachment to the estate so we can generate some revenue, because cops are nothing more than compliance enforcement officers and revenue generators for the banks and the bar associations. That's it. Who are the banks, you might ask? Well, they pretend to be courts when they sit there and issue unregistered securities carte blanche just by having their little road pirates come around and create an attachment to your estate for pretended victimless offenses of misuse of property that they're not even smart enough to know that it's supposed to be under administration. They don't even know why they do what they do, because that's why they're hired. I tell you this, I seen this one video where the chick got pulled over and the cop comes up to the window and he goes, "You know why I'm standing here right now?" She goes, "Because you got all C's in high school." Roasted him. And it's true. They hire people just smart enough to follow orders, but too stupid to realize that they're slavers of their fellow man. And it must necessarily be so, because if they get too smart and they realize, oh, wait, so this property is not under administration, 14th Amendment citizenship is voluntary, and you put the property in a private trust, well, there's nothing I can do. They don't need that, because they need cops that'll go ahead and break the law, right? Engage in emolument, like was said earlier, is what that is, where the state pays somebody to violate a contract. That's what they're paying cops to do. Go ahead and violate your oath to the Constitution and then just clean it up later after they've already busted you up, taken your property, and put you in a fucking cage. And then we'll just worry about whether or not it was right or wrong afterwards. And it's the mere threat of that amount of force that keeps most people in line. But I can fortunately say, not me. I don't give a fuck. So, and plus, once you know what you're doing, then they pay for it. They absolutely pay for it afterwards. So with that, my dad's channel here is Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind, and his backup channel is it's Sov's Place, and then his Rumble channel is SSUM369. So I would probably subscribe to all three, because they've been taking pot shots at him on both of his YouTube channels lately. So you never know which one he's going to have to stream from, depending on how many strikes he has. And my channel in particular is heavily shadow banned, so you won't be able to comment on my shorts for whatever reason. You probably won't even see them unless I make a community post about it. And if you have come across this channel by chance, you're very fortunate, because they don't like what we talk about here. And normally I don't talk about none of the stuff we talked about tonight. I just talk about the law and keep it well within the community guidelines. But you got anything you want to say to everybody there, Dad?
No, man, I'm good to go. Just don't forget, Lord loves a working man. Don't trust Whitey, and see your doctor and get rid of him.
Yeah, PayPal. We both have Rumble channels. He asked if we have. My dad's is SSUM369. Mine is just Burn the Corporate Fiction. Same thing as it is on here. So, and sometimes I do actually go and do a Rumble exclusive. I just did last time I had a stream, I believe it was, and that's where we really let loose, and we don't really much care about what we say. So probably, yeah, if you want, go ahead and subscribe to that, because I think I'm going to do a Rumble exclusive probably next time as well. So, but yeah, Lord loves a working man. Pay your taxes, obey the cops, lick their boots, all that good stuff, right? YouTube. That's what we promote here.
Shout out to my agent.
Yeah, right. Shout out to the handler. All right. You guys have an excellent evening. Dad, thank you for coming up with me. It was an awesome stream, and I will see you guys next time.
All right.